Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees, so there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream, and for premium subscribers doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind, like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple Hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something tidal, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Influencer TikTok. Capitalist pig dog, immigration flip-flop lobbied via rim job, Met Gala airstrike, A-lister scrimshaw, paparazzi lip-sip the scandal as it drips off. You know I'd love to meet our leaders that were tipped off, back when COVID was a few of us with wicked coughs, and be like, sorry, Mr. Senator, that you don't speak in terms of human worth, just in kickbacks and dipped stocks. Then punch that motherfucker like a shift clock. Hurry back home to my stack of straw dolls with their limbs off, where Biden's on the screen and he's confusing Xi and Kim Jong, talking out his SIM card like someone plugged him in wrong, but then we hit the gist and suddenly his pitch drops. He whispers right at camera one with his fist balled. His words hang with the subtlety of a lynch mob as he says rat your neighbor out and get a $5 voucher for the CIA gift shop. Hell, you'll even get a free stick of boot-flavored lip balm. 'Cause every day we make enough consent to fill a strip mall. So when I say eat the rich, I'm talking still raw, bone in, limb by greedy limb with a skill saw. Picture, if you will, a modern take on Naked Prey starring Bill Maher. Picture misery deeper than a reach in Biden's pill jar. You pull a fistful out and down it, honey, here we are. The future's full of shit and clear enough to know we're better veering off and fleeing far, somewhere Jeff will never think to look beyond the fading stars. Beyond the homeless camps they came and swept for the parade of stars, who showed their faces proudly while we covered ours. Met Gala butcher block, we feed the hungry and we tax the filthy rich until they fucking starve. Poke the hornet's nest enough, eventually it comes apart. Eventually I'll run my course and numb my art. I'll snuff the little embers out and clean my car. Wait it out enough and then my sample bank will seem bizarre. Just foreign clips of fuzzy inspirations that I've washed away or smoked beneath a half a dozen years of char. Till I've long forgotten the familiar buzz of pressure in my ears when it's just me alone with thoughts of drones, Boston dogs, BlackRock homes, and women wearing maiden's garb. The times when privately I wondered if we'd ever shake these chains of ours. When every vote for lesser evil yields another toxic barb, a pox on your democracy, a swelling in your child's heart. Before the time to educate ourselves is gone and suddenly our trial starts. Those among you capable of standing, please rise. Wipe the crocodile tears from your landlord's eyes before the trial starts. All rise and the trial starts. False alarm. I thought that help was here. But it was my own reassurance bouncing round 100,000 times in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers. And then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers. Half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear. But that was back before the Basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere. Where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere. Trigger warning, working class solidarity. I saw two people talking at the protest in the park, both from different ends of the spectrum of belief. At least that's how their conversation starts. But soon the liberal resistor might discover they got lots of things in common with their unvaxxed right-leaning counterpart. Just maybe not the swelling in the walls that surround their hearts. Fuck. The trigger warning for dystopian and dark is just that little bird you see when you embark. When you submit your body to the tidal pull of Twitter's frigid oceans, where everything you see evokes a negative emotion. So if it's hard for you to have to view the dark and the dystopian, well, little buckaroo, I'm not some shrine designed for you to find some hope within. If every day we open up our eyes is like an overdose, I don't intend to sugarcoat my opiates. If dystopian and dark is on the menu, honey, so be it. I take my rich rare like I take my kitsch Soviet. My army swells its ranks with those regarded as the lowliest, and we intend to dine upon the holiest. And if my little tweets are hard to stomach, kitten better buckle up, the ugly dial just got cranked from moderate to copious. So please consider this your trigger warning, that my every word is purposefully odious, deliberately chosen, that it swerves a little viper curve and chokes you in the Mobius. You didn't want to hear it, so I had to go and dress it up melodious. Fascism is not something you vote against. Fascism's a slow descent. Fascism was crafting scripts for use on local news a fucking decade long before you ever noticed it. Fascism is not your neighbor's Trump or bumper sticker made to match his trucker hat. It's the vat of oil you and he are boiling in. Trigger warning, ugly fucking future. Soon your useless brand of radically flaccid centrist views will have us staring down a feeding tube that serves a very soylent sin, where all your friends are zombies sharing dead-eyed pics of soylent grins. The trigger warning for the dark and the dystopian is Congress's collective mouth hideously opening, swallowing the working class and comment section nobodies. Those of you who'd pick apart the movement cause you caught a whiff of chauviny. As hopeless as I fear I'm gonna grow to be, there's bound to be some hope in me, that we could cease the friendly fire long enough to set the scene. We could stop the little factions eating off of one another long enough to catch the kind of meat that makes our meager spread the richest feast. I guess I should have put a trigger warning, working class unity. Something less akin to peaceful protest, more to mutiny. I do not submit my written word to hear your scrutiny. So if you want the censored version, it's unlocked by muting me.
Myself, cause now you can see it, and I don't wanna say that I lost myself, cause I didn't need it. Whoever I was when it started, I think that they'll stay in the past. That's all that I've lost when it's over. I'll be happy with that. I'll be happy with that. I'll be happy with that.
I don't have the inflection for commercial rap appeal, and I'm a little too subversive to be verified. Now if someday I can reach 10K, I'll retract it, I'll admit it, and I'll clarify. But in the meantime, I'll be underground where the air's beyond rarefied. Honestly, it's barely there, and honestly, it's paradise. I don't have a label that can tell me how my lyrics aren't conducive to the royalties of parasites. I'm just one man in an 05 GMC with an iPhone 8 and a low-end mic trying to take down the DNC. Stay up late and go into a rage and record all night, then wake the next day like, damn, that's me. So trust me when I tell you that your fury will articulate the things you're afraid to believe. You can tell 'cause I shake when I speak, that there is anger in the air we breathe, and it is liberally applied like the label of progressive, slapped on every neoliberal spamming you their message, slapped on every Buttigieg who tells you cozy up to your oppressors. Pardon me if I don't trust a word out of Radigan the Lesser. Shut your eyes, love, the more you know the better. The worse you see, the sweeter. A peaceful revolution doesn't really fill a theater. A flint will start a fire, and flint water douses it. But if you think it's safe to drink, you must have skipped the Kool-Aid and gone for the ether. 'Cause I think you're fucking dreaming. Are you? No? Good. Me either. Alright. Let's take a short breather.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, fam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. You know, the issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
What up? What up?
Sorry I'm late.
He's late.
Sorry I'm late.
He's late for a very important date. You know.
No.
Do the thing. Where's my soundboard?
It is Wednesday, my dear.
There it goes. Even soundboard's late. You know? I press the button 5 seconds later. Fucking thing happens. Anyway. What up, fam? It's INN News. It's your boys. You know me, Reef Breland, with Collin Radix-Carter, as always. What up?
What up? Oh,
Collin.
What is just looking at the YouTube, is this becoming like Twitch now? Like, what is this?
You get experience points. You can level up. You could ding.
What is?
Race
what
your
is
friends. Like, you know, you get, like, depending on how much you engage with chat, it gives you points. So the more you engage, the more points you get. Who knows? I imagine they might be like bits from Twitch, or just like channel points that you could use for, like, you know, we could have people place bets. Who knows? I don't know. You know, gather around.
So they let us do that, but they'll let us have this, but not monetize us. Okay.
Right? Yeah. We don't need monetization. You go to co-fi.com/indienewsnetwork and monetize. We're monetized that way. So you can give us money that way. We appreciate it. All the dollary dues. Yeah, dollary dues. All right. Okay, bro, we brought stories. We did the damn thing.
Yep. And this will probably be Indy's, not going to say Indy's favorite thing to talk about, but lately we've been kind of going with a theme, just randomly. But if I were to mention this stream tonight in 2 words, it would be F Israel. F Israel forever. That's free. But all these stories are tied to Israel.
Kindergarten mode, you know. We could say the words. We're allowed, you know.
I know.
So, but
I just want to be very careful considering the content in that might get us popped. So I just want to be very careful, especially tonight.
We said it plenty of times Sunday night, so that we might have already been done the, you know.
But anyway, so first story that we're going to hit tonight is, well, actually both my segments kind of relate to each other. So we're going to talk about how Israel is essentially gamifying the genocide. I think you and Indy talked about this briefly on
Sunday night.
How do we miss that on Sunday? Where essentially the IDF essentially plays their version of red light, green light to unalive Palestinians.
Yeah.
So there was an expose that was published in Haaretz over the weekend, which is very damning in terms of, because a lot of soldiers basically spilled the tea in terms of this game. So the thing was, it was paywalled. So, but Reef went into his bag of magic tricks.
I have Russian. Never pay, brother. I have Russian link. Don't worry about it.
He went in his bag of tricks. He somehow bypassed the paywall.
Little digital
and was
goblin
able to get the article, which is, given the article, I can understand now why Haaretz is paywalled. So
Haaretz is the fucking weirdest website. Like, I use transparency. I use Opera GX for a browser, right? And like 403 to every Haaretz page. First of all, just forbidden link, you know. And it was like, okay, well, let me fucking use this stupid Chrome bullshit. And then, you know, still made it in. So, but
so we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk more about this game essentially that the IDF plays at the expense of Palestinians' lives later on tonight, which kind of relates nicely and probably the trending story of the week. So those of you are familiar with the Glastonbury Festival, big music festival in the UK, kind of like their version of Coachella. There's this punk band, I guess it's Bob Vylan. I guess that's how you say
like
it.
Bob Dylan, but Bob Dylan. Come on, Collin. It's your culture, son. You gotta know this shit.
It's my culture, but I don't listen to punk. Although,
see, now there's your problem.
And I haven't heard of these guys prior until this weekend. So
who's the other one? Someone in the chat will tell me. Amy and the something Sniffers, right? That's the other band. That was the little Australian punk band that you know, I've been listening to them for a bit. From my mother, let me tell you, my mother, pretty cool lady, right? Was going to Rolling Stones, all the punk, like Iggy Pop, Sex Pistols, you know what I mean? Like the good shit. She was there for the Clash. She was like, give me that, like the dirty, grimy Clash that, you know, barely had a fucking, like they had a tape recorder, dog. That's what they had, you know? Like they didn't have shit.
But your parents are boomers, so that makes sense, though.
Yeah. Yeah, she just had decent music taste, you know?
Yeah. So Edinburgh said Emil and the Sniffers.
Emil and the Sniffers?
Sniffers, yeah.
Something like that. I thought it was like butt sniffers, but I might be confused with butthole surfers. You know?
I think that's a band's name, actually.
Really good bands out there, Collin. The Dead Kennedys. I'm just saying, you know, we can get you some punk vinyls. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. Anarchy in the UK and the like.
Well, but in relation to that,
yes.
We digress. Bob Dylan, the band, got some heat from UK media over some phrase. Now we have to be careful because we don't want YouTube to pop this stream or even the segment. You know what it is. You know what it is in relation to the IDF. But I got some information that actually I pulled in the wee hours of the morning. That because everyone is on them for what they said. But later on, and I'm sure that, and I didn't watch their segment, but they said more regarding the assault that wasn't televised, at least to my knowledge, or at least wasn't mentioned in the UK media. So we'll get into that later, plus some details surrounding that. And then I did bring an extra story tonight. Actually, I didn't. Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. He did an Instagram story regarding July 4th, given that it would be the 4th on Friday. I thought it was very appropriate to share what he had to say. Those of you who do not know or follow DJ Joe Nice, you should. He's been on our show multiple times. He's the one that the music that you hear for our show, that's him. But we are going to listen to what he had to say regarding July 4th, given the mess that we're in this country right now. So, and what did you bring, Reef?
Well, I brought the sad story. So we're going to talk about the cafe massacre, right? But I think there's an angle that no one else has really caught with this. Few people who are paying real close attention. So we're going to honor the dead like we've done previously, and also, talk about why, which is what we do on the show. But I also brought this piece from the Electronic Intifada about new vocabulary that's happening in Gaza, especially with the just severe lack of food, right? So I'll also showcase a bit of the 40-day fast coverage that Sam Husseini has been highlighting at the UN. So we'll get into that. So it all goes really nicely together, I feel. But and then you had an extra, right?
I mentioned the extra.
Okay. Cool.
You weren't listening.
Nope. I was looking at chat. We were talking about punk bands in the chat. It was fun.
Actually, Sean in the chat said I could totally see Collin with Liberty Spikes. Well, I grew up in the UK in the punk era, and I remember this style vividly. But no, I don't think I would be able to pull that off, unless if I did like.
It's a very X-Men look, I have to admit. Like there's like 8 X-Men with the punk.
I didn't have the. I don't have the type. At least when I did have hair, I wouldn't have had the type of hair to be able to pull
punk cover of the '90s X-Men cover. That's what I want. That'll be good.
Sure.
Give me that nonsense.
But the thing is, I when I did have a fro, my curls were very tight, so it would just be like poof. It wasn't like poof. So so I don't think I would have been able to pull that kind of style off. But but anyway, so those of you who are new, welcome.
Talking about earlier, he said YouTube's demonetized us, right? So you can say fuck YouTube and go to that QR code, scan it, right? Get your little phone out, put that in, give us a few dollary dues, or go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Links in the description, or if you're in the live chat, you can press !donate. The link will pop up for you. Find you ways to donate. But look at all the it's getting bigger, Collin. Look at that. Here's all the monthly supporters and our lovely VIP super chatters in gold. Look at all that. Look at all of them. There's too many of them. Some of you are going to have to stop. Too much monies. But we do appreciate it. So, here's all the ways.
And we do have a surprise for those of you, for our VIPs.
You got to stay
for
the
reveal
whole
that
stream.
Surprise very soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
And what is? Oh,
sorry. Turning on the thing. I forgot.
Okay.
Anyway, you ready for our next one? First one.
You all right?
I hope so.
Well, you can kind of sit back for a bit while I take over for a bit. So, but yeah, as I said earlier, you and Indy kind of led me in with this story over the weekend. You guys touched on this a little bit, so we'll get into more details in that. And we, as I mentioned earlier, Haaretz did an op-ed on this story. So given that Haaretz is paywalled and most people will not be able to read that story or care if they did read it, we're going to read some excerpts of that tonight. It was a long article, so we're only going to highlight the more important bits. But I think even within the first few minutes of what I'm going to mention in regards to this segment, I think you guys will get the general gist of all of this. You guys are smart. So, so first part, once I get this slideshow going, comes from Substack. New person, you know,
BetBeat Media,
BetBeat
correct?
Media.
They
Yeah.
had Vanessa
So
on
this is the
recently.
first time.
All right.
This is the first time I pulled something from them. Oh, by the way, any articles, independent news articles you want to read, you can go to Indie Media Today.
I think it's Indie News Now. I think that's it.
Indie News Now.
Yep. .com.
And you can .com. You can get to read top independent news
now
articles of the day. You can even watch us there right now if you want. But we like you on YouTube, so stay here. At least for the interaction.
Chat for people.
Sure. Just another space if you're tired of mainstream media, and Indie has worked hard to correlate articles from people that we trust and actually do good work. He's put them all on one website, so definitely check that out. But that's where I got this article from. BetBeat Media. They report gamifying genocide, how Israel turned mass murder into the game, red light, green light. Israelis have named the slaughter of starving Palestinians Operation Salted Fish, their version of the children's game red light, green light, while the world treats genocide as background noise. So they continue, but actually, I guess this is from Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
This picture and caption here. And underneath, Israeli soldiers film themselves mocking Palestinians in Gaza. I'm sure you guys have seen that on social media. But the caption reads, "Long ethnic Europeans whose ancestors once converted to Judaism mock the Semitic features of the innocent locals they are mass slaughtering with glee, while claiming that they are the true Semites indigenous to the land. There is no great evil as white/Jewish supremacist settler colonialism." So let's get into the article. The Israeli military has achieved something unprecedented in the annals of human cruelty. They have transformed genocide into background noise. As the world fixates on the specter of war with Iran, the daily massacres of Palestinian civilians at so-called aid distribution sites have become what one Israeli reservist chillingly describes as routine, a place with its own set of rules where the loss of human life means nothing. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz has delivered a damning expose that confirms what Palestinians' witnesses have been screaming into the void for months. Israeli soldiers are deliberately gunning down unarmed civilians waiting for food. The headline reads something from a fever dream of human depravity. It's a killing field. IDF soldiers ordered to shoot deliberately at unarmed Gazians waiting for humanitarian aid. But this is no arbitration. This is policy. Israeli commanders are ordering troops to open fire on crowds of starving people as standard military procedure. Since May alone, 549 Palestinians have been slaughtered at these sites, with over 4,000 wounded. The method is as calculated as it is sadistic: heavy machine guns, grenade launchers, mortars, an arsenal of death deploying against people whose only crime is hunger. One Israeli soldier, speaking to Haaretz with the casual tone of someone describing a morning routine, explained their system. Between 1 and 5 people were killed every day. They're treated like a hostile force. No crowd control measures, no tear gas, just live fire with everything imaginable. He added with chilling matter of factness, our form of communication is gunfire. The soldiers have even given their killing spree a name: Operation Salted Fish, the Israeli version of the children's game Red Light, Green Light. They're literally gamifying genocide, turning mass murder into entertainment while the world scrolls past their atrocities like social media background noise. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the organization running these death traps, is not a humanitarian group at all. It is a mercenary operation run by evangelical extremists close to both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, designed to provide cover for ethnic cleansing while creating killing fields for sport. The 8 sites operate for precisely 1 hour each morning, with Israeli forces firing on anyone who arrives early or stays late. It is humanitarian theater at its most grotesque. When confronted with their own soldiers' admission of mass murder, Netanyahu's response was particularly overwhelming. He dismissed the reports as blood libels. The Israeli military's own confessions of systematic war crimes are now branded as anti-Semitic lies. They have managed to weaponize victimhood so thoroughly that their soldiers' testimonies of murdering and raping children become evidence of persecution. Meanwhile, Western media dutifully parrots Netanyahu's denials. Headlines read, Netanyahu rejects report and Israeli military rejects report, as if the words of war criminals who deny their crimes carry more weight than those of war criminals who confess to them. The propaganda is so lazy it borders on parody. Israeli lobby asset Richard Kemp was found praising the safety of these sites, while gunshots could literally be heard in the background of his own video. The death toll statistics reveal the scope of this extermination campaign. Official counts hover around 55,000, but these only include identifying bodies brought to the barely functioning hospitals. The real number likely exceeds 100,000 souls, probably reaching at least 400,000 when accounting for those buried under rubble, vaporized by bombs, or disappearing without a trace. I'm actually glad they mentioned that because I think we talked about this in terms of like how they lessen the number to make it seem not so bad. Although I would argue 55,000 is bad in of itself, but almost kind of how much does it take to call it a genocide? It's kind of like the game I feel like the West is playing. But I would argue like close to 500,000 seems more realistic given that there's so many people who are missing or bombed that we don't even know about or won't even ever know about, given the state of what's going on in Gaza right now. So I'm glad that they actually mentioned that it's probably close to maybe 500,000 people who've lost their lives at this point, instead of like, we've heard 30 for a while, then 40. I'm not sure we even have a count now of, at least in mainstream media, of how many people have perished in this assault. But anyway, the Gaza Health Ministry's latest list reads like a catalog of humanity's destruction. 11 pages of names before reaching a single child over 6 months old. 8 babies died on the day they were born. Their entire existence on this planet occurred during genocide. Israeli financial minister, which they crossed out, to demon Bezalel Smotrich, recently referenced Gaza's population as 1.8 million, down from the pre-war figure of around 2.2 million. This casual revision of...
Bezalel Smotrich. It definitely sounds demony, doesn't it?
Whatever. This casual revision of nearly 500,000 missing people may represent the most inadvertent omission of mass extermination in modern diplomatic history. Public opinion has collapsed for Israel's genocide project. Among Democrats, support has plummeted from over 50% to just 21%, with 60% now siding with Palestinians. Yet this Democratic rejection means nothing in a system where Congress functions as an Israeli subsidiary and members show up wearing IDF uniforms to legislative meetings. The bitter irony is palatable. As the world braces for potential war with Iran, a conflict that would serve Israeli strategic interests, the ongoing extermination of Gaza has been regulated to background noise. The threat of future violence drowns out the reality of present genocide. Iran looms as tomorrow's crisis while children die today in killing fields designed by Israel and funded with Western weapons. This is the ultimate achievement of Israel's statecraft, making genocide boring. They have normalized mass murder so thoroughly that the systematic slaughter of civilians generates less media attention than political smear campaigns against Israel's critics. The mechanics of extermination have been refined into routine administration procedure, complete with operational names borrowed from children's games. We're perhaps witnessing something worse than the Nazi genocide, a killing machine that operates without shame, broadcasting its crimes as entertainment while the world treats industrialized child torture, rape, and murder as just another news cycle to scroll past. Centuries of Western white supremacist colonialism have turned the world into an inhumane hellhole where human life, Arab life, is worthless if you do not fall within the 7% of global people classified as ethnic European or white, which includes white Jews without a Semitic bone in them. The Palestinians of Gaza are dying in real time, turning into background characters in someone else's geopolitical drama, their screams muffled by the louder drumbeat of fake outcries against anti-Semitism, but not against Semites, mind you, but against blonde, white, ethnic Europeans calling themselves Jews.
Polish.
History will
bunch of folks, you know?
Right.
So
history
I think it's like,
will judge not.
I forget the percentage. Go ahead.
History will judge not just the perpetrators, but those who choose to look away while genocide becomes elevator music.
I mean, I think like it's like a crazy number, like 70 to 80% of them have like dual citizenship, you know? So, but...
And then it's the idea of like, okay, claim, all right, if you are indigenous, prove it. Oh, we don't have DNA, that's illegal. Okay, so...
Right. Well, that was the other fucking... The DNA results are fucking crazy too. Ugh.
Right. So...
And you find out all their real names after, you know, they changed them to make them more Jewish. It's hilarious.
Well, it's funny, even Indy, he told me, like, I won't say his last name because...
Yeah, it all gets...
You know, but he told me his name is... What's that?
Well, like, they get changed twice. So, like, they get changed to be less Jewish when that wasn't popular.
Right.
And then gets changed back to be more Jewish in Israel. Like, you know, like you add that Goldberg on there, or, you know, Shlomo, any of those. Like what the Netanyahu isn't Netanyahu. It's like Milikowski or something like that. Someone will let me know.
Yeah, it's Milikowski, Polish.
Right.
So, but you can try and change your names or whatever, but that doesn't make you indigenous.
Yeah.
So, no,
they steal everything. That's how it works.
So anyway, let's go into this real quick. So this is from TRT World. This is what I pulled off of Instagram. So this is kind of like a precursor to the Haaretz article. I think actually they did pull this from the Haaretz article, actually. So inside the minds of Israeli killers in Gaza, I felt like a Nazi. It looked exactly like we were actually the Nazis and they were the Jews. Again, this is Israeli soldiers saying this. So,
away the bad
testimonies from Israeli commanders and soldiers revealed that the army shoots any and all Palestinians approaching the corridor, including unarmed civilians and children, also leaving bodies exposed to scavenging animals. So we can play this real fast. It's a few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
One time, guards spotted someone approaching from the south. We took positions and just opened fire. I'm talking about dozens of bullets, maybe more. People around me were shooting and laughing. We approached the blood-covered body. He was just a boy, maybe 16.
Right.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the article. So again, this is just a taste. So this is an op-ed from Haaretz. As we said, this was, well, I think Haaretz is paywalled anyway. So there'll be no way. Yeah. So there'll be no way for any of you to read it unless you want to pay them. And I would not suggest it. But
I didn't.
But as I said, well, you went into your bag of magic tricks. You were able to pull the article for this.
Never pay, brother.
So we're going to do you all a solid. So we do you all a solid. We're going to read some of it. This was a long article. So we'll read the more important bits, or we might skim through some of it. So this article is called "It's a Killing Field." IDF soldiers ordered to shoot deliberately at armed Gazians waiting for humanitarian aid. IDF soldiers told Haaretz they were ordered to fire at armored crowds near food distribution sites in Gaza, even when no threat was present. Hundreds of Palestinians have been killed, prompted the military prosecution to call for a review into possible war crimes. Netanyahu, Katz reject claims, call them blood libels. So let's get into it. Israeli soldiers in the Gaza told Haaretz that the army had deliberately fired at Palestinians near aid distribution sites over the past month. Conversations with officers and soldiers revealed that commanders ordered troops to shoot at crowds to drive them away or disperse them, even though it was clear they posed no threat. In a statement released following publication of this expose, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz rejected the claims, which they called blood libels.
Which, whatever
the
that
Gaza
means.
Humanitarian Foundation aid centers began operating in the Strip at the end of May. The circumstances of the foundation's establishment and its funding are murky. It is known to have been set up by Israel in coordination with U.S. evangelicals and private security contractors. Its current CEO is an evangelical leader close to U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So you brought this. This is a picture of said distribution site.
Yeah. From the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, right?
Right.
Yep. Which I
also
found
brought
this.
These. This is new.
So this is from Rami Abdul, right? And he puts, this is an announcement from the American-Israeli Gaza Humanitarian Foundation stating that aid distribution begins at 2 a.m. in the dead of night. But why such an hour? Because under the cover of darkness, people can be shot, killed, and disappeared far from cameras, far from witnesses, and far from accountability. What legitimate aid organization operates at this time in an active war zone with military forces everywhere? How can civilians possibly distinguish the presence of Israeli troops, especially when the army exploits these conditions to carry out large-scale killings? And keep in mind that, like, some people are having to travel on foot
right
a long way. It takes a while.
Right. In the dark.
Like something like 6 hours people walked. Like, you know, like craziness. You know, or had to taking horse-drawn carriages and whatnot. Like, you know, so donkey carts. Like what Jesus rode it on. You know?
Right.
Like, anyway, the center will open tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. So 6 hours before that would be what? That would be 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
Right. At night. So you'd have to start walking 8 o'clock at night. The minute it got dark, you should start walking. Name an Israeli IDF, IOF fucking sniper that wouldn't take every shot possible. Like, This is despicable shit. Ugh.
Let's continue. The distribution centers typically open for just 1 hour each morning. According to fish officers and soldiers who serve in the areas, the IDF fires at people who arrive before opening hours to prevent them from approaching, or again after the centers close to disperse them. Since some of the shooting incidents occur at night ahead of the opening, it's possible that some civilians can see the boundaries of the designated area. It's a killing field. Actually, we've read that in the article, so we don't need to read that. But in regards to shooting them, the soldier added, "We open fire early in the morning if someone tries to get in line from a few hundred meters away, and sometimes we just charge at them from close range. But there's no danger to the forces. According to him, I'm not aware of a single instance of return fire. There's no enemy, no weapons." He also said the activity in his area of service is referred to as Operation Salted Fish, the name of the Israeli version of the children's game Red Light, Green Light. IDF officers told Haaretz that the army does not allow the public in Israel or abroad to see footage of what takes place around the food distribution sites. Gee, I wonder why. According to them, the army is satisfied that the IGF's operations have prevented a total collapse of international legitimacy for continuing the war. They believe the IDF has managed to turn Gaza into a backyard, quote unquote, especially since the wars with Iran began.
So, have you ever seen the show Squid Game?
No. You asked me to see already yesterday. I said no.
So, Squid Game is the premise of Squid Game is that you take children's games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's this entire tournament of children's games, right? And you have to, if you lose, you die. These children's games, right? Like, it's like they have a thing with, like, you know, those little Dalgona candies that had the little shape imprinted in them, and you got to, like, cut out the shape perfectly, and, like, you can't break it. You break it, literally, dude comes up and shoots you in the show, right? So this Red Light, Green Light was turned into this doll, giant doll, would turn around, and if they caught you moving, they would shoot you.
Ugh. Okay.
That is Red Light, Green Light. That is what he is saying they are playing. That if you see a Palestinian move, you shoot them. That's Red Light, Green Light. That's Operation Salted Fish. Literally dystopian, nightmare-fueled science fiction. Like,
I was arguing in this day and age, a lot of science fiction is a lot more closer to real life, especially now.
Yep.
So, oh God.
Just to put that in context for people. Some of you watch that. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You know? So it's on Netflix, I think. You know? So good luck with that. Otherwise known as war crimes. Like, ugh.
Anyway, Gaza doesn't interest anyone anymore, according to WHO, said a reservist who completed another round of duty in the northern strip this week. It's become a place with its own set of rules. The loss of human life means nothing. It's not even an unfortunate incident like they used to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalie in the chat, this is some sick-ish. Yes. Like, And again, just a reminder, like many of these soldiers are teenagers or early 20s. So the idea that children, like literally killing other children, and it means nothing to them.
And every single Israeli citizen has had to serve, you know?
Unless they fought against not serving, if they're actually brave enough to resist, and then they get in trouble for it.
Right. So, I mean, this is what's being encouraged.
Right, but it's literally like a video game, but in real life.
Worse than that.
Reminds me of. No, worse than that. But it gives but that's kind of why, in a way, it's so detached because it's like, this isn't real. Like, this is like a video game. Like, I can just walk away from it. So this is real life. So so I can't imagine the kind of, this is brainwashing in essence, like, because I cannot imagine removing myself to the point where I feel no ways. And I'm not in the army, I've never been, so maybe you can think of it differently. Maybe in the chat, if you have, you can inform it. But for me, like, I'm not sure if I can just be so nonchalant about taking a life like that, especially like given if my life wasn't threatened, you know. So I just don't have the stomach for it. So
I mean, that's what doesn't
I cannot
make
imagine
any sense with this, right? Like, they're literally saying there's no weapons. These are the soldiers saying, like, there's been no return fire. Zero. So, like, you can't even claim, you know, like, they're taught that, like, you know, if you fear for your life, whatever, that dumb bullshit, right? Just like we taught our soldiers, you know, you can kill indiscriminately, you know, like, there's not even that. There's not even that level of, like, this is just rampant slaughter shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
And literally fucking putting out a salt lick, essentially. You know, you're leaving corn out. Like, dude, there's so many fucked up shit. History will not look kindly on any of this.
No.
So,
and again, this relates to my next segment. So, and given what Bob Vylan said, it's very appropriate. So, but we'll get into that later. An officer serving in the security detail of a distribution center described the IVS approach as deeply flawed. It's so pretty. It's just so pretty. It's just like, it's so deeply flawed. Like it takes away the monstrosity of this. It's like,
it's like, oopsies,
deeply flawed.
Oopsies.
Right. But anyway, working with a civilian occupation when your only means of interaction is opening fire, that's highly problematic to say the least, he told Haaretz. It's neither ethnically nor morally acceptable for people to have to reach or fail to reach a humanitarian zone under tank fire, snipers, and mortar shells.
Intersecting fields of fire.
According to accounts from commanders and fighters, the IDF was supposed to maintain a safe distance from Palestinian occupation areas and food distribution points. However, the actions of the forces on the ground do not align with the operational plans. Today, any private contractor working in Gaza with engineering equipment receives 5,000 shekels, which is roughly $1,500, for every house they demolish, said a veteran fighter. They're making a fortune. From their perspective, any moment where they don't demolish houses is a loss of money, and the forces like to have to secure their work. The contractors, who acts like a kind of sheriff, demolish wherever they want along the entire front. As a result, the fighter added, the contractor's demolition campaign brings them, along with their relatively small security details, close to distribution points or along the routes used by aid trucks. In order for the contractors to protect themselves, a shooting incident breaks out and people are killed, he said. These are areas where Palestinians are allowed to be. We're the ones who move closer and decide they endanger us. So for a contractor to make another 5,000 shekels and take down a house, it's deemed acceptable to kill people who are only looking for food. Oh, God.
Yep.
A senior officer whose name repeatedly comes up in testimonies about the shootings near aid sites is Brigadier General Yehuda Vash, commander of the IDF's Division 252. Haaretz previously reported how Vash turned the Nezarim corridor into a deadly route, endangering soldiers on the ground, and was suspected of ordering the destruction of a hospital in Gaza without authorization. Now, an officer in the division says Vash decided to disperse gatherings of Palestinians waiting for UN aid trucks by opening fire. This is Vash's policy, the officer said, but many of the commanders and soldiers accept it without question. The Palestinians are not supposed to be there, so the idea is to make sure they clear out, even if they're just there for food. Vash's division is not the only one operating in the area. It's responsible for northern Gaza, and therefore Vash's policy is relevant to those who loot UN aid trucks and not GHF sites. So you brought this as well.
Yeah, this is in the article.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. This is from Gaza Notifications, right? Breaking thousands of starved Gazans stormed the dystopian Israeli-American aid complex in West Rafah, right? And this is, of course they had to go through biometrics and this is the amount of people you're talking about. This is, at the very least, hundreds, more than that. That's gunfire you hear. This was the aid, remember? Mm-hmm. This is what all that... they're drugging this food too, from what we've heard.
Right.
So here's more of that.
So what we are seeing in the horizon is Israel. And here we are seeing crowds of people waiting for the aid trucks to enter. And who knows if gonna enter or not. People are waiting here for hours, not expecting the aid to enter at any moment, but no guarantees. Okay, I'm getting closer and I can hear the gunshots very clearly.
So that's what's happening. Hundreds of trucks are waiting just along that, so
anyway, the soldiers said this has become routine. It's not right. You feel it's not right that the commanders here are taking the law into their own hands. But Gaza is a parallel universe. You move on quickly. The truth is, most people don't even stop to think about it. Earlier this week, soldiers from Division 252 opened fire at an intersection where civilians were waiting for aid trucks. A commander on the ground gave the order to fire directly at the center of the junction, resulted in the deaths of 8 civilians, including teenagers. The incident was brought to the attention of Southern Commander-Chief Major General Benir Assur, but so far, aside from a preliminary review, he has taken no action and has not demanded an explanation from Vash regarding the high number of fatalities in his sector. I was at a similar event. For what we've heard, more than 10 people were killed there, said another senior reserve officer commanding forces in the area. When we asked why they opened fire, we were told it was an order from above and that the civilians had posed a threat to the troops. I can say with certainty that the people were not close to the forces and did not endanger them. It was pointless. They were just killed for nothing. This thing called killing innocent people, it's been normalized. We were constantly told there are no non-combatants in Gaza, and apparently that message sank in among the troops. A senior officer familiar with the fighting in Gaza believes this marks a further deterioration in the IDF's moral standards. The power that senior field officers yield in relation to general staff leadership threatens the chain of command, he said. According to him, my greatest fear is that the shooting and harm to civilians in Gaza aren't the result of operational necessity or poor judgment, but rather the product of an ideology held by field commanders, which they pass down to the troops as an operational plan. Gee, you think?
Yeah.
In recent weeks, the number of fatalities near food distribution areas have risen sharply. 57 on June 11, 59 on June 17th, and around 50 on June 24th, according to Gaza's health ministry. In response, a discussion was held at Southern Command where it emerged that troops had begun dispersing crowds using artillery shells. They talk about using artillery on a junction full of civilians as if it's normal, said a military source who attended the meeting. An entire conversation about whether it's right or wrong to use artillery, even without asking why that weapon was needed in the first place. What concerns everyone is whether it will hurt our legitimacy to keep operating in Gaza. The moral aspect is practically non-existent. No one stops to ask why dozens of civilians looking for food are being killed every day. So he also brought this. So this is the IDF shooting at civilians.
I mean, this is what starving people are willing to do for food, by the way. This is just basic human nature. Like, ugh.
Another senior officer familiar with the fighting in Gaza said the normalization of killing civilians has often encouraged firing at them near the aid distribution centers. The fact that live fire is directed at a civilian population, whether with artillery, tanks, snipers, or drones, goes against everything the army is supposed to stand for, he said, criticizing the decisions made on the ground. Why are people collecting food being killed just because they stepped out of line or because some commander doesn't like what they're cutting in? Why have we reached a point where a teenager is willing to risk his life just to pull a sack of rice off a truck? And that's who we're firing artillery at? There are many groups that oppose Hamas. Abdul Shabat went several steps further, he said. They control territory that Hamas doesn't enter, and the IDF encourages that.
Literally,
another
ISIS.
Officer remarked, right.
Like, we covered this.
I'm stationed there, and even I no longer know who's shooting at whom. In a closed-door meeting this week with senior officials from the Military Advocates General Office, held in light of the daily deaths of dozens of civilians in near aid zones, the legal officials instructed that the incidents be investigated by the IDF's General Staff Fact-Finding Assessment Mechanism. Whatever that means. This body, established after the Mavi Mavara flotilla incident, is tasked with examining cases where there's suspected violation of the laws of war to fend off international demands to investigate IDF soldiers for alleged war crimes. During the meeting, senior Senior legal officials said global criticism is over the killing of civilians is mounting. Senior officials in the IDF and Southern Command, however, claim the cases are isolated and that the gunfire was directed at suspects who pose a threat to the truce.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. A source who attended the meeting told Haaretz that representatives of the Military Advocate General's office rejected the IDF's claims. According to them, the arguments do not hold up against the facts on the ground. The claim that these are isolated incidents doesn't align with incidents in which grenades were dropped from the air and mortars and artillery were fired at civilians, said one legal official. This isn't about a few people being killed. We're talking about dozens of casualties every day. Although the Military Advocate General instructed the fact-finding assessment mechanism to examine recent shooting incidents, these represent only a small portion of the cases in which hundreds of uninvolved civilians were killed. Senior IDF officials expressed frustration that the Southern Command has failed to investigate these instances so thoroughly and is disregarding civilian deaths in Gaza. According to military sources, Southern Command Chief Major General Vani Assor typically conducts only preliminary inquiries, relying mostly on the accounts of field commanders. He has not taken disciplinary action against officers whose soldiers harmed civilians despite clear violations of IDF orders and the laws of war. As part of their operational conduct in the vicinity of the main access roads to the distribution areas, centers, IDF forces are conducting systematic learning processes to improve their operational response to the area and minimize as much as possible potential friction between the population and IDF forces. So basically, instead of planning to shoot 50 people, we're going to shoot 45. That's essentially how it reads to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, recently, forces worked to reorganize the area by placing new fences, signage, opening additional routes, and more. Following incidences where there were reports of harm to civilians arriving at distribution centers, in-depth investigations were conducted, and instructions were given to forces on the ground based on the lessons learned. These incidents were referred for examination by the General Staff's debriefing mechanism. Okay, whatever. The Israeli army issued an additional response following publication of this expose, saying it strongly rejects the accusation raised in the article. The IDF did not instruct the forces to deliberately shoot at civilians, including those approaching the distribution centers. To be clear, IDF directives prohibit deliberate attacks on civilians. The army added that any allegation of a deviation from the law or IDF directives will be thoroughly examined and further action will be taken as necessary. Don't know what that is. Don't get into specifics. Sure. Sure, Jan. The allegations of deliberate fire towards civilians presented in the article are not recognized in the field. I mean, again, just to summarize, you guys knew about this, but again, I felt, well, thank you for pulling this article fully, but I think, again, this is just damning how basically IDF soldiers are openly admitting there's no rhyme and reason to what we do. And again, remember, these are children. They are impressionable teenagers who essentially are just following orders, even if they don't want to. I want to give them some benefit of the doubt.
This to me is like if someone put candy in the gas chambers at Auschwitz, right? And like that to me is what is like they're putting literal food. This is the Hunger Games, right? Like what are we doing? What are we doing?
In my mind, this accounts as abuse to me because
Nazis.
This is.
I hate these guys.
These are, I would argue, men who are telling children to kill other people and children.
Yeah.
For what? to, like, and again, you can argue that brainwashing, propaganda, regarding Arabs, whatever, and we've talked about that
Education.
before. Education, like we've talked about all of that before, but
Religion.
right. But at what point being on the ground and doing this doesn't your heart break? Like, and in fact, for many of them, it's, as they say, it's just routine. That's just how, again, like, where's your humanity? Like, these children lost it at such a young age. So if anything, I hate the fact that I have sympathy, but I kind of do, because in a lot of ways, these, again, like these IDF soldiers, I don't want to say necessarily they're victims of the system, but in a way they are, because they've been programmed by adults. You can argue family, school, like rabbis, whoever, to be this, to do this in the name of the settler colony, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah.
And the idea of resisting, even if you believe that this is wrong, is either non-existent or, I'd argue, virtually impossible. So in my mind, in a lot of ways, on both sides, lives are lost. Obviously with the Palestinians, in terms of, they're the ones getting shot at, but we can also argue for these are teenagers, Israeli teenagers, who have lost their humanity. So on both sides, they're dead.
Yep.
And it just makes me wonder, like, when they get older, like in their 30s and 40s, especially when they're out of the service, how they feel, or, what's their thinking. And you know what? Actually, this might be actually a good time to bring on Miko Palet again and kind of talk to him a little bit more about this, given that he's a general son. Like, I'm sure he had to kind of go through a lot of this, even if not just adjacent, in terms of, like, but just kind of understanding more of the mind of like an Israeli soldier, and like, what strength do you need in order to kind of come out of it? I'm kind of wondering. So,
Right.
But yeah, I feel like this in all should be more reported about in mainstream media, but obviously it's not going to. But obviously this gives a lot of precedent to my next story with the band Bob Vylan and what they said regarding the IDF. And I'm sure they didn't know all this detail, but it gives validity to what they said. So, and it gives validity to how many people have felt anyway. So, but yeah, very damning. But but given that, again, the article is only people who are dying to read it will read it, but it's not going to be mentioned in mainstream media at all. And this is essentially, I feel like a lot of soldiers felt like, I can say this because nothing's going to get done about it. So it's almost kind of like, yeah, we do it, and now what? What are you going to do about it? Nothing. So it's almost kind of like that callousness of, like, you can afford to say this thing because there's not going to be anything that comes out of it. If anything, they believe that no one cares, which is far from the truth. But but they're right in the sense that mainstream media is not going to do this.
Yep. I'm with you. There's a lot of stuff that happens that the news won't tell you. Just to quote MF Doom.
But thank you guys for that. Was a long segment, but I think it's very important that you guys listen to this and, at least on record, kind of sharing this article. But this is one of the reasons why we are demonetized, because we talk about stuff like this that is not favorable to the algorithm or YouTube sponsors. So the way you can help us, if you want us to continue reporting on stories like this, is if you have a smartphone, you can scan the QR code at your screen there, or you can type in the Ko-fi link that you see at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on YouTube and you're in the chat, you can type in !donate, all one word, and the Ko-fi link will pop up. Anything as small as $1 will help us in terms of paying for the equipment and tech we need in order to produce this show and other shows on the network, as well as any extra money that you will give us. Hopefully we can support other colleagues in the network to update their equipment. So just being completely transparent, your support helps us essentially pay for the bills that we need in order to keep these shows running, and we really do appreciate it. If you don't want to give on Ko-fi, you can give on PayPal, Substack, or CashApp. Those links are in the description. If we understand, money is tight, and we want you guys to take care of yourselves and communities first, but you still want to support us, the best and free way you can do that is word of mouth, as well as liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Make sure, check YouTube to make sure you are subscribed, because sometimes YouTube just kicks random subscribers off. So do a quick check. And let us know in the comments, or let us know if you see this as a segment. Had you had any idea of the reality of what Israeli soldiers are doing and their thoughts regarding their interactions with Palestinians in Gaza? Does it surprise you? I'm sure many of you know. And what do you think should be done about this? Again, as far as I know, we're the only ones who are going to report on this article. And I feel this should be very damning regarding the IOF and on us too, in a way that we're kind of complicit in what's happening in the territory right now. But in any case, thank you guys for watching, and we appreciate you sharing this content.
Yeah. Right. To the chats, Boy Wonder.
I'm sure there was a lot.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of folks, mostly fam, in the chats. Let's see. Actually, you know what? Let's work backwards. That might be a little easier. I think I did see some. So Sean said, I effing hate this timeline. Natalie in the chat, it hurts my brain, my heart, my soul when people can see this and not care. Earl of Laurel to Natalie said, Trump's tweet that started with bombing Iran and ended with now is the time for peace was 1984 confirmed. Of law, negotiations equals threats, diplomacy equals bombs, peace equals weapons contracts. Also, of law, war crimes equals freedom actions. Natalie, I think I said this before. This was sick-ish. Earl of Law, Squid Game is real. Kieran, glad to see you, buddy. Backyard Graveyard. Sean, what the F did they do? Try to liberate themselves. Natalie, Evil Incorporated. Sean, sick Fs. Sean again. Nah, man, 16. I miss 16. Yeah. So
nope.
I think that was it. So yeah, make sure when you click this, share this out, because again, I will probably have to do like smaller bits of this too, because I just feel like this is so important that more people should know about this. And so yeah, when we clip this out, fam, do us a favor and share this out to many people as possible, because again, this kind of gives precedent to what Bob Vylan was saying, and I'll get to him later, but as I said, it gives motive in terms of why they're doing this. Essentially, it's just like we're following orders and we don't care. Either we don't care, or I'm also kind of hearing from that, I understand what I'm doing is wrong, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's kind of what I'm reading into some of these kids who are talking about this. So again, as I said, this is abuse on multiple levels. And and I feel that more people should know, and especially anyone who still tries to justify what Israel is doing as the right to defend itself. Like, again, they're saying they're not being attacked. There's no mention of Hamas at all. These are all civilians. So the fact that like they're just shooting anyone because they feel like it or they're ordered to gives zero precedence of we have to protect ourselves because Hamas. They're not mentioning anything in this thing regarding Hamas at all, if you've noticed. So, and again, they're non-combatants. They don't have guns. What are you fearing? So yeah, share this to your friends who kind of claim that Israel has the right to defend themselves. Show them a clip of this and be like, well, the Israeli soldiers are saying that they don't have guns, they're non-combatants, they're civilians, and yet they're still shooting them. Now what? Let's see I'm curious to see what the Zionists in the world say to that. I'm sure they're going to come up with some bullshit, but you're going to not believe an IDF soldier on the ground. So from a Israeli newspaper, okay, go off, I guess.
All right, you ready for our next one?
I am.
Cool. So, if you've been paying attention on Twitter, something happened this last week that I find incredibly despicable, as I tend to find Israel doing every week. But they bombed a cafe on the coast, and you think, oh, that maybe they just don't like, lovely coffees and like food for people to eat. But no, I think it's a little more insidious than that. So this is from Dave DeCamp over at Anti-War, right? Little, precursor. So he says at least 95 killed in Gaza as Israeli forces bomb cafe and shoot aid seekers. June 30th, medical sources told Al Jazeera on Monday that Israeli attacks killed at least 95 Palestinians in Gaza throughout the day, as Israeli forces bombed a seaside cafe and gunned down more desperate people who were seeking aid. According to the Palestinian news agency Wafa, an Israeli airstrike hit the Al Baka cafe in Gaza City, killing 33 people and injuring 50 others. Among the dead was journalist Ismail Abu Hattab, bringing the total number of Palestinian journalists killed since October 7th to 227, according to Wafa's count. Another journalist, Bayan Abu Sultan, was wounded in the attack, and photos and videos of the aftermath show her standing outside the cafe, covered in blood. Ali Abu Atilia, a survivor of the airstrike, told the AP that the cafe was struck when it was crowded with women and children. So this is Maha Hussaini. Hope I got that right. So this is from that cafe, right? So this is the aftermath, right? So I mean, this is an entire building just now, like, rubble, practically. You know? So... And there's this bear left in the fucking rubble. You know? So... I mean... There's this from Rami Abdul. An Israeli missile tore this elderly man away from his wife. They tried to catch a breath by the shores of Gaza City. So, there's that, right? And this is from the Palestinian Chronicle, right? And some bits from Ramsey Baroud, I think. So, they write, over 30 Palestinians were killed and dozens were wounded on Monday when an Israeli airstrike hit Al Baka Cafe, an outdoor venue on the western shores of Gaza City. According to medical sources and eyewitnesses, the cafe, constructed from tents and plastic sheeting, was a well-known meeting spot for journalists, artists, athletes, and residents seeking a brief respite by the sea. And internet. That's one of the key factors here. That this place had internet. Like internet access. Right? So, the strike left a large crater in the sand and reduced much of the cafe to rubble. Civil defense crews recovered at least 20 bodies and continued to search through the debris hours after the attack. Eyewitnesses said the venue was crowded at the time of the bombing. Among those killed were several prominent figures in Gaza's civil, cultural, and professional life. Their deaths represent a significant loss to a society already devastated by more than 8 months of continuous bombardment. So, first death was from Ismail Abu Hattab, a Palestinian photojournalist who was among the casualties. Abu Hattab had spent years documenting the impact on war on civilian life. In Gaza, his photographs, many of which appeared in both local and international media, offered a rare window into daily realities under siege, capturing not only scenes of destruction, but also moments of resilience and community. He was known for his courage in the field and his deep commitment to the truth. Colleagues described him as one of the most consistent documenters of the war's toll, often working under extreme risk to ensure the stories of others were told. So, Gaza Notification says, heartbreak. This is a previously recorded video of Ismail Hattab, who was just killed by the Israeli army in a brutal massacre in Gaza. We deserve to live a decent life. We love life too. ونحن نحب الحياة إذا ما استطعنا إليها سبيلا. So that's who Israel martyred. Some of Ismail Hattab's work that I got for you from his social media accounts. Please share. So, you know, did incredible work. Ismail Abu Hattab is injured in an airstrike in November. He recovered from his wounds in August and returned to work documenting some of the more atrocities in Gaza. Ishmael's photography was exhibited in Los Angeles in April. He was killed today. So here he writes, in the eyes you see the story of a land that... Oh, here, how about I do that? In their eyes you see the story of a land that never dies. You see the sea, the siege, and the dream of freedom. You see a mother's silence as she holds back tears to stay strong for her children. You see a child who's never known the word safety, but still dreams of it every night. The photos of Gaza's children are not just sad images, they are living messages to the world. We love life, even when life doesn't love us back. Gaza is not just land, it is a spirit that lives within us, and it only dies when our hearts do. So his exhibit was called Between Sky and Sea. He was murdered along with 20 other people in the airstrikes on a cafe on the beach. So I suggest people ordering some of these, right? I will try to find you a link for that. So, but 2 journalists identified among those killed by Israeli airstrikes in Al-Gaza, in Al-Baka Cafe in Gaza, Ismail Abu Hattab and Omar Zaino. The Israeli strike targeted a group of journalists who usually meet at that cafe to upload their work, right? So they literally went there for internet access because there isn't any other access. So similar how they're doing food, they are also using this as bait to kill innocent civilians, journalists at that, right? So among the martyrs was Gaza's youngest female boxer, Malek Musla, right? At just 21 years old, Malek had become a symbol of determination and resistance. She trained at the Palestinian Boxing Center and frequently spoke about the challenges of pursuing sport as a woman in Gaza. Her athletic achievements and outspoken presence had made her an inspiration for many young Palestinians, especially girls. According to Palestinian sources in recent months, she had started mentoring younger athletes, believing that sport could offer structure and hope in the midst of chaos. Right? So, killed on June 30th, along with 27 others, including 2 journalists, activists, artists, and civilians. The strike targeted a busy seafront cafe. Right? And just to, have her lovely pictures up somewhere. But another martyr, Franz Al-Salmi, a visual artist, was among those killed. Her work, often created using charcoal and salvaged materials, centered on themes of death, trauma, and survival. One of her final paintings, produced shortly before her death, showed the body of a bloodied woman lying motionless in a white shroud. After the bombing, a photograph of Al-Salmi's lifeless body, found in nearly the same position, circulated widely online. The resemblance between her final artwork and her death was striking. That's the painting and her last moment. So one of the 20 people Israel murdered in the cafe was visual artist Franz Al-Salmi, and here's some of her other work. Right? You're welcome to go find that and support that. But I just figured I'd bring a bit more. Right? So I don't know how you find the mediums even to do this in Gaza. That's incredibly impressive. Al-Salmi had participated in exhibitions and informal workshops, particularly for children in displacement shelters. Her death marked not only the loss of a promising artist, but also the erasure of a voice committed to preserving Gaza's cultural life under impossible conditions. Another martyr, Mustafa Abu Amira, a Palestinian footballer, was also among the dead. A forward for Al-Hilal Gaza Club, Abu Amir was recognized as one of the most promising players in the local league. Off the field, he volunteered in youth programs, helping to train children in Gaza's refugee camp. He had recently lost several family members in earlier attacks, but continued to attend practices and community events. His death came just as he was beginning to attract attention from clubs outside Gaza. So, Palestinian footballer Mustafa Abu Amir was killed in the Israeli airstrike on Al-Baka Cafe. He had played for clubs like Al-Sadaka, Al-Saitoun, and Al-Shati Services. After the latest update from the PFA, he is the 438th player killed since October. 438th player. Journalist Bayan Abu Sultan survived the bombing, but had been at Al-Baka Cafe shortly before the strike. Months earlier, her brother was killed by an Israeli sniper near Al-Shifa Hospital, an event that continues to shape her reporting. Abu Sultan has gained recognition for her coverage of the war, especially on social media, where she shares first-hand accounts of displacement, loss, and survival. So, this was her after the massacre. And Rami Abdullah, it's increasingly clear that Israel is deliberately targeting data upload hubs used by journalists to transmit reports and images. Picture journalist Bayan Palestine moments after the Israeli strike on Al-Baka Cafe. one of the few remaining internet access points in Gaza. So she has video right after the bombing. She went in right as people were pulling bodies out of the rubble, right? So I feel like this is already heavy enough. So but thoughts, Collin? I mean, other than anger and rage, you know?
Yeah. Other than anger and rage, how else can we feel?
Ugh. Jesus Christ. You know? So, well, I'll end on this. This is from Hunter S. Thompson. We've become a Nazi monster in the eyes of the whole world, a nation of bullies and bastards who would rather kill than live peacefully. We are not just whores for power and oil, but killer whores who with hate and fear in our hearts. We are human scum, and that is how history will judge us. Pretty hard shit from the gonzo journalist. So he would have been demonetized on YouTube, I guarantee it. Probably. We are also. And, you know, you can scan that QR code on your screen if you want to support us anyway, or go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Links to donate are in the description below. But otherwise, just like and subscribe, share the video. It's the only way people see it. And leave a comment. Let us know what you think. You know, leave some lovely words to honor the people. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Well, we did it.
We did it.
All right. To the chats. How's the chat doing? Hopefully I didn't depress everyone.
Earl of Law to Sean. Yeah, but bombs bursting in air were in the past. We won, celebrating victory symbolically. Now we celebrate while fighting. Hang out later, because DJ No Nice brings up that point. So hang out to the end of the show. Hopefully it won't be too late. But if you don't, watch the clip. Assuming Reef gets everything in order, I'll have it out by Friday. So hold on to that. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. Let me check. Over here, no. People are joining on Substack. That's nice. Say hi to the chat, Substack. We appreciate if you wanting to get in there. Anything else?
Not really. A lot of people are talking about fireworks, I guess, in relation to Star Spangled Banner, I guess. So, which makes sense.
Vicky Adams just got done picking raspberries. Dude, raspberries are fucking expensive, first of all. You get like one little fucking tub. They put like, I don't know, 12 raspberries in there. And like, that's like fucking $5.99. You know? Like, the fuck? Like, what was it? Half pint? Something like that? I forget what it is. Like the little tiny tray. You know what I mean? That shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, anyway, just, you know how it is, capitalism and whatnot.
Right.
Oh, God.
Speaking of.
Yeet. All right, so you brought this.
Yep. Which is arguably, well, it is and definitely was trending story over the weekend. So those of you who may not know, the Glastonbury Festival was over the weekend. If you don't know what it is, think of the UK's version of Coachella. This is a band, Bob Vylan, is actually a duo punk group. I've never heard of them prior to this weekend. But, and I'm sure a lot of you know, they said some stuff well, they said a thing regarding the IDF that got them in a lot of trouble. And actually, by extension, the BBC in trouble as well. So we do not want to get popped by YouTube. So you can guess what they said if you do not know. Or you can go online to find out what they said that, essentially got them in the news right now. But we'll play a clip. I believe this is from Sky News. We're going to have to turn on the volume at that part where they say the thing. And then we'll get into it. So hopefully I remember where they said it. And
then this will also help if I do some of this. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Play. I said.
British punk rap duo Bob Vylan had their visas canceled after leading crowds into anti-Semitic stuff in Glastonbury. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau announced on X the rap duo had their visas canceled for leading the crowd into death chants, quote unquote.
Gonna go? Here it goes. This bit, right?
Right. So, not yet. But Christopher Landau, the State Department has revoked the U.S. visas for members of the Bob Vylan band in light of their hateful tirade at Glastonbury, including leading the crowd in death chants. Foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. So, for context, they were going to do a U.S. tour starting in the fall, but obviously, given all of this, their tour here was canceled. I think you can zoom.
There you go.
The controversial chants Bob Vylan did that resulted in the duo's visas were being canceled were Free Palestine, and I'm not going to read that. So I think it's
y'all know how to
here.
read.
Yeah, so
y'all dig that shit.
Bob Vylan was supposed to go on U.S. tour in late October, and the visa was canceled on alleged support for terrorism and anti-Semitism. Bob Vylan was also dropped by their agent, United Talent Agency, following the controversy. Many commenters on X slammed the rapper duo and praising the U.S. for canceling their visas.
Yep.
The Yorkshire Yarn tweeted, Bob Vylan's U.S. visas have been officially revoked from the State Department. All concerts canceled, and there now seems to be a bitter taste of the ice cream. Well done, Pascal. That's the guy's name. His name's Pascal.
Gotcha.
Blame Game tweeted, Bob Vylan, real name Pascal Robinson Foster, has lost his agent and his U.S. visa has been revoked and will never work. And he will never work on BBC again. Poor bloke, back to living off the family trust fund.
Okay.
Ravel Braverman said, thanks to Bob Vylan for all your hard work. Talent agency drops him. U.S. visa is revoked. 26 show U.S. tour canceled. Go crawl back into your virtual signaling hole.
I love how Sky News.
You will be gone in 5 minutes.
Any supportive Sky News?
Oh, go back a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's just him fucking like victim shaming.
Right. Go back into your virtual signaling hole. You will be forgotten in 5 minutes, but the boost you have given the rest of us will go on for years. Bless you.
Uh-huh. Any in support, Sky News? You gonna throw that in?
UK police have launched a crime investigation into Bob Vylan, and the BBC is facing controversies for not pulling the plug on the broadcast. Okay, we can
Stop
going
here.
to this interview.
Oh.
Yeah.
Into two controversial sets at Glastonbury Music Festival. The punk duo Bob Vylan have drawn fury from Parliament and Jewish groups after chanting "Death to the IDF."
No more music, just sweaty car journeys and hangovers for those leaving Worthy Farm. But nothing in comparison to the mother of all headaches facing the BBC. With police now launching a criminal investigation after reviewing footage broadcast from Glastonbury Festival this weekend. It comes after the Prime Minister and media watchdog Ofcom asked why whoever was running this live stream didn't pull the plug on it.
British broadcaster Esther Crock slammed the BBC for airing the controversial chants.
I got it. There you go.
As she claims it's the biggest scandal. Oh, really? Okay.
For who? Like, this goes to go along sides, by the way, that they, anytime Israel just fucking asks them to take down a fucking documentary, they're like, okay. Like, no, how about fuck you, this is our country, we can do what we want, you know? This is for our audience. Like,
right.
You know, people can choose to not watch. I think it'll be okay. Like,
here is the fact that the BBC actually aired this. You know, this was a surprise to no one. We've known that Glastonbury over the years invites a certain type of person.
A black face,
very young, luckily
in the high place,
naive of the world
pushing
individual.
propaganda.
Get her ass. Questionable. We've always known this. We've known for years when Stormzy decided to stand up on stage and start swearing at Boris Johnson and encouraging the crowd to swear at their then Prime Minister. But it's the fact that the BBC didn't foresee this sort of behavior that people find astonishing. You know, we've seen riots and protests on the streets of London. Basically, since October the 7th, we've seen the behavior of people that feel quite incensed by the situation going on in Israel and Gaza, and yet our national broadcaster did nothing to prevent it. They had, the audacity to air a bunch of people basically saying death to the idea of a bunch of other anti-Semitic things.
She clutched her pearls so hard they came off.
Of people in this country that are paying the license fee and wondering, what are we getting for our money? All the broadcasters sensibly would actually create a delay in the broadcast so that if they see this sort of thing, that they would actually be able to stop it. But the BBC didn't do that, and they then came out with a groveling apology, as they usually do when they've been proven to fallen asleep at the wheel, and then said, actually, you know what, we're not going to make this available on CashApp, as if that's supposed to make the situation better. We know what to expect from people from Glastonbury. We know that their IQ and their level of political knowledge is not probably where the rest of the public is. We know that they're a bunch of young, easily manipulated people. They're a bunch of Greta Thunbergs that find a new grievance to get excited about every week. But it's the fact that the BBC, the adults in the room, lack the editorial foresight to actually see this happening and be able to stop it, because this is an embarrassment. It's completely embarrassing that this is happening here in the UK, and the Western world are watching what is actually happening to this country.
How dare you?
Oh no, what's happening? I wonder why. I wonder what's happening.
The sad thing is I have to deal with this media next week.
You fucking, hey man, you don't gotta watch BBC. You go channel 4. Dave's got better fucking entertainment. You know?
Well, my dad and stepmom watch a lot of news, so depending if I'm staying with them once I get over to London, like, this is the crap that I'm going to have to listen to. And, well, to be fair, at least my parents will call this out too, but still the idea that I have to listen to this in a British accent.
It's also fucking Sky. Anyway, the worst. Like...
well, it's not as if like BBC is going to be any better on this either. So
who will be better?
Which is why we're going to go to Jonathan Cook, who actually has a much better take on this. Thanks to Consortium News, where he reports attacking a chant, aiding a genocide. Israel, the UK government, and the media are fomenting moral panic over words glorifying violence towards the IDF, while the Israeli military inflicts carnage in Gaza and the region. Hell, even in the last segment that I did, you're hearing it and seeing it, but as you said, the BBC clutched their pearls over a few words that are very fitting, given what the IDF is doing. So, but let's get into what Jonathan has to say regarding this foolishness. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer expressed predictable outrage at the weekend that the BBC had inadvertently broadcast pop band Bob Vylan leading crowds at Glastonbury in a chant of, not going to say it, but you know the phrase, the Israel Defense Forces that have been responsible for slaughtering many tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza over the past 21 months. He called the chant appalling hate speech, apparently unaware that there are far worse crimes than hating soldiers carrying out the mass slaughter of children. Those worst things, of course, include slaughtering children en masse. The BBC apologized, calling the bad's comments deeply offensive, more offensive, apparently, than Israel bombing and starving the children of Gaza. Glastonbury organizers condemned the chant, saying that there is no space for hate speech or anti-Semitism, apparently assuming wrongly that all Jews identify not just with the state of Israel, but with an Israeli military widely accused by genocide experts of committing genocidal war violence in Gaza. So this is a tweet
immediately come to the defense.
Right. So this is a tweet from Stop the Bollocks with Mirabelle, who tweeted, I'm a British Jew in England. I didn't interpret the phrase as a call for people to kill me because, one, I'm not in the IDF. Two, it doesn't call for the death of individuals. The clue is in the IDF. Three, I'm not brain dead. Thank you.
Funny how that works.
Right.
Ugh.
Police are investigating Bob Vylan, a musical duo, to see whether they have committed a criminal offense or possibly a terrorist one. As far as we will know, the same police are doing nothing to investigate some 10 British citizens known to have traveled abroad to join the Israeli military, the IDF, committing the Gaza genocide, which I believe you reported on a few months ago.
Yep.
You can find that clip, I forgot the name of it, in our playlist. On Monday, the U.S. State Department canceled the group's visas ahead of a U.S. tour scheduled to begin in the fall, and the United Talent Agency dropping the duo, according to the Hollywood Report. And apparently, as I was working out today, because right now they were supposed to be doing festivals in the UK and Europe over the summer. I think they have a gig in France. I believe that was canceled as of today. So, and I'm sure there'll probably be a lot more festivals that will be canceling them as well. I should put up the tweet, but there were a lot of people who are saying, well, if they're being canceled for what they said, that they shouldn't go. Because you're essentially giving money towards censorship, essentially, is what a lot of people are saying online regarding this. Which I agree. So, I mean, we're not going to tell you guys what to do if you're watching this, if you happen to watch this in the UK or Europe. But, I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. And if anything, I would argue any musicians who were going to be performing alongside them also should be making a stand on this. Like, if they're not playing, then no one plays. So let them lose their money on account of stupidness, because what they said is true. But anyway, I digress. On Sunday, the BBC's Victoria Derbyshire grilled Starmer's Health Secretary Wes Streeting on remarks from the Israeli embassy in London, condemning what it termed the normalization of extremist language and the glorification of violence at Glastonbury. Unexpectedly, Streeting avoided jumping wholeheartedly on the media outrage bandwagon, led by the Mail on Sunday, whose front page demanded the arrest of the two band members for what the paper wrongly described as a chanting demanding. Not going to say that either. You can read that. The Mail apparently believes that all Israelis, presumably including the country's children, are currently serving in the Israeli military. So I think this is, yeah. So we'll watch that part in the interview where they get into it in terms of what Bob Vylan said. And actually, Streeting said something kind of surprising here. So let's watch.
The Israeli embassy says what happened at Glastonbury
Sound.
raises
For you, yep.
questions about the Israeli embassy says what happened at Glastonbury raises questions about the glorification of violence. Do you agree?
I think that is a challenge, and that's why I don't think anyone should be cheering it on. I'd also say to the Israeli embassy, get your own house in order. What happened in the West Bank this week by Israeli settler terrorists needs to not only be condemned, it needs to be acted upon. And Israel cannot continue to look the other way while its own people are carrying out unwanted acts of terrorism and violence. They wouldn't tolerate it rightly against their own citizens. Their citizens are doing it to Palestinians, and it's got to stop.
I mean, at least he said that. I mean, which I feel is a bare minimum, but bare minimum, but at least it was said. So I'll give you a light applause for that streeting. But anyway, let's continue into the article. There are 4 important points to make about the interview between Derbyshire and Streeting. 1. The Israeli embassy in London, like the Israeli government it represents, has precisely no concerns about the quote-unquote glorification of violence when Israel is doing either the glorifying or the violence. Israel is currently celebrating its success in slaughtering and naming hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, including huge numbers of children, attacks by soldiers and state-backed Jewish settler militias on Palestinian civilians in the West Bank, its eradication on whole communities in Lebanon, and its bombing of residential tower blocks across Tehran, killing many hundreds, which we also talked about, I think now 2 weeks ago. Checking the playlist for that clip. When Israel bombed Iran. Violence has been Israel's signature policy for the past 21 months and long before that. Israel has reveled in the carnage it has inflicted on populations across the region. Oh.
Here it goes.
Wait. Oh. Oh, they moved. Okay. Wait. There we go. So, this is a tweet from the Israeli embassy in the UK. They tweeted, the embassy of Israel in the United Kingdom is deeply disturbed by the inflammatory and hateful rhetoric it spits on stage at a Glastonbury festival. Freedom of expression is a cornerstone of democracy, but when speech crosses into indictment, hatred, and advocacy of ethnic cleansing. Huh?
Yeah, dude, what?
Okay, that's a stretch.
Yeah, because it's the IDF is apparently all of their, but see, they're telling on themselves. It's the IDF
right.
Is their fucking ethnicity. Like, that's, right. You know, they're just telling on themselves. Again, they started from the river to the sea chants. Like, they did, like, it's just so inherently, despicably lying. Like, we probably shouldn't even read it. You know?
It must be called out, especially when amplified by public figures on prominent platforms. Chants such as the phrase, and I'm not going to say that either because YouTube is weird, but you can read that, are slogans that advocate for the dismantling of the state of Israel and implicitly call for the elimination of Jewish self-determination. When such messages are delivered before tens of thousands of festival goers and met with applause, it raises serious concerns about the normalization of extremist language and the glorification of violence. We call on Glastonbury event organizers, artists, and public leaders in the UK to denounce this rhetoric and to reject all forms of hatred, including the ones that you guys are complicit in terms of your settler state of what you're doing to Palestinians. Okay. All right. Anyway. And yet, public figures from Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu to Starmer have incited against the Palestinians, with Netanyahu comparing them to Amalek. Remember, that was the thing like nearly 2 years ago when he called Palestinians that as justification to ethnically cleanse the region. A people the Israelites were commanded by God to exterminate, and Starmer terming the wholesale starvation of the people of Gaza an act by Israel of self-defense. Israeli officials from Netanyahu down have advocated the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And even more seriously, Israel has not just threatened, but repeatedly carried out the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians under its belligerent rule.
Yep.
Move.
Do the thing.
There we go. 2. It is beyond ridiculous for the BBC to echo the Israeli government in prioritizing a harsh crackdown on words at Glansbury glorifying violence towards Israeli soldiers ahead of the actual violence of genocide being committed by those Israel soldiers. The BBC has avoided criticizing the Israeli government for its actual violence, its bombing and active starvation of Palestinian civilians, and the Starmer government for colluding in that violence, or what the International Court of Justice termed more than a year ago a plausible genocide by Israel. As a recent report by the Center of Media Monitoring confirmed, the BBC has dramatically skewed its language to present Israel, the aggressor, in a more favorable light than the victim, the Palestinians of Gaza. The BBC's own whistleblowing journalists were warned that the state broadcaster has all but banned the use of the word genocide, even by experts on the matter. By arming Israel, by arming spy planes over Gaza from RAF base Arov Tiri on Cyprus, and by providing diplomatic cover, Starmer has effectively glorified Israel's slaughter of Palestinian children in the enclave. Bob Vylan's chants of the phrase have a far more dangerous counterpart in Starmer's recital of Israel's right to defend itself, when that defense involves Israel's mercilessly starving Gaza's population of food, water, and power. Bob Vylan are a punk band. Starmer is the British Prime Minister, the man who directs Britain's foreign policy and directs its army. Right. So we'll hear from Starmer excusing Israel. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm very clear. Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principle.
It's already not being done in international law. Bring up the ICC bullshit. Survey says, like, it's already deemed internationally war crimes. So now what?
It's that Israel has a right to defend herself and Hamas bears responsibility.
Okay, but as I reported on in my last segment, IDF soldiers have confirmed on the ground Hamas is not an issue. The people who are getting food at the aid sites are non-combatants.
Right. On top of
they
Hamas
are told,
has broken zero fucking international laws. So
right. So, sir, what are you talking about? You're just parroting talking points by Israel because you are their bitch.
Yeah.
And again, I don't believe, again, it's just even more callous that people with British accents are saying this bullshit. It's one thing for Americans, another thing for the British. And again, I have to deal with this starting next week. Anyway, no one, least of all the BBC, has held Israeli or British officials accountable not just for glorifying violence, but for actually carrying it out on an industrial scale for nearly 2 years. But the BBC is suddenly interested in holding to account 2 punk musicians for leading a chant, one that made a symbolic, hypothetical threat of violence against an Israeli military carrying out the ultimate form of violence, an actual genocide. In a serious media, Israel's supposed concerns about the glorification of violence and extremist language will be laughed off the stage rather than respectfully aired. So, hold on. So actually, no, I have a little bit more. This. Wait. Wait, did I?
What? You got it?
Oh, I'm not sure. Did I skip? Or yeah, here we go. Okay, that was right. Number 3. Streeting is being congratulated and condemned in equal measure on social media for refusing to be drawn into the Mail and BBC's conflicted outrage. I say to the Israeli embassy, get your own house in order, he responded to, I'm sure we saw in the interview. But hang on a minute. Streeting's resistance to Derbyshires' line of questioning was perhaps unexpected, but it is also, let's not forget, serves the interests of both the Starmer and Israeli governments. Streeting's insistence that Israel get its house in order had, as he made clear, nothing to do with the 21-month slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza. Starmer is still defining the Gaza genocide as Israel's supposed right to defend itself. In responding to Derbyshire, Streeting expressed concern only at what he called violent settler attacks in the West Bank. He said the Israeli embassy needed to get your own house in order in terms of the conduct of your own citizens and the settlers of the West Bank. This was intended purely as deflections designed to serve Starmer and Israel, the West's key client state in an oil-rich Middle East. It benefits the UK government to make an issue of the West Bank settler attacks and present them as disorganized, random violence by individual extremists that the Israeli government is not responsible for, but needs to get a firmer grip on. By highlighting problems in the West Bank, the Starmer government can avoid addressing the genocide in Gaza and the Israel state clear responsibility for that genocide, which is precisely why in recent weeks Britain has made so much noise about imposing feeble penalties on a handful of extremist settlers and 2 fascist ministers in Netanyahu's government that represent those settlers. Starmer and Streeting's prioritizing on Israel's West Bank violence over Israel's Gaza violence is a switch and bait twice over. I mean, I get what Cook is saying, and both situations need to be held in high regard. Obviously, you can make the argument that what's happening in Gaza is far worse, but maybe because we are not looking at UK media, and actually this might be something I'll experience myself again when I'm in London in the middle of next week. I could probably see this and report on it myself. At least here, we don't hear much about the West Bank at all in mainstream media other than what we report or what other people in independent media might report. We have to make that connection that, no, you have to worry about the West Bank as well, because, so I think given from our context, given where we're at the world, we don't hear about the West Bank really at all. So at least here it's kind of more focused on Gaza. But again, I think that's kind of the only difference where I might disagree him on, but that's only, I guess, just in regards to him being in UK and we're here, we're hearing different things. But I kind of hold to what I said. Street has said the right thing, but I do also hear what Jonathan is saying, that in a way is kind of like an obfuscation from what's happening in Gaza as being way worse. That's not, at least in that interview, at least what we saw, wasn't necessarily being addressed. But yeah, I mean, both are bad. Both need to be addressed. So at least that's my take. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it just seems like, the British have been complicit in this. Completely. They're allowing their spy planes to be used. They're allowing, we've already talked about how British mercenaries are fighting there, then coming back to Britain, causing problems there, going back. It's just like, I just find it, I find the BBC completely fucking despicable in this,
Right.
And Keir Starmer, which we talked about him and all the prime ministers before him would have been right on board. So, yeah, I mean, anything you wanted to add?
No, yeah, like I said, I get what Jonathan is saying, but maybe in terms of being here, we hear a lot of Gaza a lot more and nothing on the West Bank. I rather people talk about the West Bank as well, because that, I would argue, that's underreported. But he's saying now, at least the BBC is reporting more on the West Bank and less on Gaza. So
Right.
again, I think it's just, you know, two different countries, two different situations. So, but both need to be held with the exact same urgency. But anyway, most of the violence in the West Bank is not coming from the settler extremists, even though they are the ones being punished by the UK. It is coming from the Israeli military, which has bulldozed thousands of homes there over the past year, driving 40,000 Palestinians off their lands. Further, settler violence is not random. It is coordinated with Israeli field commanders, many of them settlers themselves, to uproot Palestinians so that Israel can move in Jewish settlers to colonize the land, or, in the words of successive Israeli governments, Judaize it. None of this is new either. Israel has engineered and imposed a violent apartheid system on Palestinians for decades to make life unbearable and encourage them to leave their homeland. Second, Glastonbury's anger-filled chant against the IDF was not primarily motivated by Israel's violent actions in the West Bank. It was against the Israeli military for committing a genocide in Gaza, which the British government had been supporting. Streeting's aim was to drag the debate onto safer territory for him and Starmer, that Britain needs to not deal not with a genocide in Gaza, but with a handful of violent loons in the West Bank. And as I said, I will kind of report on that when I come back and see if that's actually the case. Probably is. Very interesting to hear that perspective from the BBC and UK media in general. Even in criticizing the Israeli government for not doing enough to tackle settler violence, Streeting is still operating within the confines of a public discourse dictated by Israel, which prefers any criticism to be directed at individuals, not at the Israeli state behind those individuals. That I agree with. You know, like Streeting's just mentioning, like, oh, it's these few crazy radical settlers colonizers who's terrorizing the West Bank, when again, the issue is not them, it's the issue of Zionism, which no one is talking about at all. It's the idea of this ideology that has infiltrated the religion in of itself that is making people do this. And it's not unique to, like, it's the whole system that is just baked into. So that's what no one in mainstream media is talking about at all. It's Zionism in of itself that's the issue, not random kooky settlers who are looking to colonize the West Bank. So that I agree with here. Number 4, the BBC, the Starmer government, and the Israeli lobby are all delighted to play their part in this game of deflection and deception, because these kind of moral panics obscure the real issue, that all these parties are actively colluding in Israel's genocide in Gaza. While the media and government can now have a long backwards and forwards about whether criticism of Israel's genocidal army needs to be defined in law as a criminal offense or terrorism, Israel will get a free pass to continue with the real terrorism, a genocide in Gaza. Famously, the black civil rights fighter Malcolm X observed the role of the media. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power. If you are not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. 60 years on, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Any thoughts before I move on real quick with the rest?
No. I mean, other than it brings up that his bit on anti-Semitism too, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, Arab people are Semitic, you know? But anyway.
I brought this. I'm not going to play it because
Oh, it's Mark
The
Rebier.
thing is in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have taken a screenshot of it, honestly. But yeah,
That.
you can play it, but keep the sound off. Yeah, keep the sound off because he
Mhm.
says it here too. But here's what I noticed because
It
I just
says-
happened to see this on Instagram.
Fuck the idea.
Who is this
fuck
Mark
Netanyahu.
Rebier?
He's a YouTube. He does loops. You know, very good at that.
Okay, but he's American though,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
He's in America. He was saying that phrase, yet, and I had to check last night. Nothing on him.
I don't know
Like
if he's
nothing.
He might not have an agent necessarily. I think.
Right, but like he didn't get criticized. But he didn't get criticized from our government for saying anything, as far as I know. Like I checked. Like there was nothing. Like actually, there was no news on him at all. Like the only thing that was on him was within the last 6 months, but nothing here in regards to him saying that.
Yeah.
You know, and he's an American. So I found that kind of a little puzzling. Like, here's an American saying it. I would figure he'll be more of a risk.
Yeah.
Because he lives here. Like Bob Vylan live in UK. Like they live in London, I believe. So like
bad there too.
You know. So I found that kind of strange and a little. It feels like you're trying to make an example of these Brits for saying that, but not the American that said that. Who I argue is more of an issue, America, if you're trying to renege their Bob Vylan's visas from touring here and affecting their money. You brought this.
Yes.
So protest songs in the 60s were so much sweeter and nicer. Master of War by Bob Dylan.
Right.
And I hope that you die and your death will come soon.
You gotta do the voice.
I'll follow your casket.
You gotta do the Dylan voice.
Afternoon. I don't know Dylan voice.
You don't know the Dylan voice? Hard rains are gonna, and I hope that you die and your death will come soon. I'll follow. I mean, it's just basically Kermit the Frog, you know, by the pale afternoon, and I'll watch while you're lowered down to your deathbed, and I'll stand over your grave till I'm sure that you're dead. So, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And a hard rain is gonna fall.
Right. So, but here's the thing, and again, I found this in the wee hours of the morning. I think I sent it to you, I think at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I was just doom scrolling Instagram at that time. So it's funny how, and I saw online that there were a lot of Zionists who were like, he had no right to say that. You put my life at risk. And like, if he wanted to make a stand, he should make a stand against the Palestinians and speak about them.
Yeah.
Well, if you just saw the clip where they said that, you would not necessarily think that's what they said. And again, to be fair, I didn't watch the stream, so I don't know. Yeah. But shout out to the Middle East Eye, who clip this out. This is what people are not talking about what was said. You don't have to, you can listen to this in full, but this kind of slaps in the face of people who are like, oh, they weren't talking about their Palestinian people at all, and like yeah. So, and I'm sure this is not going to get played on mainstream media at all. So play the. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, like artists using their platform to elevate, you know, the world, the consciousness of the world in terms of suffering. We've talked about how Nina Simone has said that, like, she wanted to use her art to uplift and bring out the needs of the suffering, you know, especially within the Black community. You know, so and I had to think about this because Beyonce is performing in DC this weekend. So obviously, like, the city is just going to be, oh God, I just thought that it's going to be a mess.
Just
this
leave
weekend
early.
with her being here.
Fly away. Fly away. You know,
I probably
get out of there.
I should have thought of that if I realized, you know, I should have left honestly this weekend just to avoid the drama that will be with her being here, plus the 4th of July weekend. But
yeah,
but that, as I said, you know, like, I'm yet to hear Beyonce or any. Well, there have been a few major artists that have spoken up for Palestine. There have been a few, but Beyonce being probably one of the biggest world entertainers, you know, has not said boo regarding what is happening in Palestine. I think that says something, and
you played yourself.
And I saw someone on Twitter make this point because we make it a point to kind of say, oh, once you get a lot of money, you have power. So if you have said power, Beyonce and others like you, why aren't you using that power to speak up for the oppressed? Like, yeah, you use like you use the imagery of suffering and, you know, the imagery of resistance, Black resistance in terms of your art or whatever. But are you willing to sacrifice your career in order to make that message known to the masses? Like, again, I haven't heard of these guys before this weekend, and I'm ready. I'm kind of enamored with them. They know, and you know, we talked to a colleague, BigMadCrab, and he also he said to you, because you know he's very much into punk. He says punk is dead.
No,
you know, even
yeah.
among like
there's a few out there.
You know, there are a few, but so actually, let me ask you: would you? I mean, we haven't listened to their music or anything. I'm not sure you have. Would you consider them true punk?
Most likely. I mean,
based
if you're
on
willing
what
to do
you've
that,
seen.
Sure.
Based on what you've seen.
I mean, as long as they play it loud and fast, that usually counts. You know, that's
right.
That's kind of there.
Right.
So
right. But I mean, but to me, they understood the assignment. They used that platform to highlight an issue that is very right, to highlight an issue that's pertinent to what's going on in Gaza at the risk of their careers right now, which people are saying, oh, they're done or whatever. Not. I looked at their website because someone tweeted it out. A lot of the merchandise in their website and their merch store is sold out. You know, like, I sent this to you in the Discord that on Spotify, within 72 hours, they've increased their listener base up by, I think, 100,000 listeners within 72 hours. So I think the media, ironically, is having the opposite effect of what they're trying to do to silence them. If anything, you're just bringing more attention to them, you idiots.
Yeah.
Because by making an example out of them, and again, as we reported, they weren't the only ones that were saying the phrase. Like, there were other bands that were saying the phrase too, but as far as I know, nothing happened to them. You singled these guys out. And I wonder but you know what it is? I have to wonder, you know, because they are of color. So, you know, when Black people, and I guess he's mixed, but where Black people get a hold of revolutionary action, you know, the media gets scared. So I feel like a lot of this is them being made an example of due to the amount of melanin that they have in their bodies. So, I mean, look, I'm going to say that, but But they understood the assignment. They knew what they were doing, and I don't feel like, and really, if anything, they've doubled down on what they're doing, because even in there, and like, they don't really tweet on Twitter much. I think they're more vocal on Instagram. But I did see this tweet from them. I believe last night. I pulled this up, and you'll have to zoom in for this. But Bob Vylan said, "Silence is not an option. Not the first, not the last." You have to zoom in more because that's really hard to read.
Yeah, hold on.
You can.
Let's do that. No, zoom. Is that better?
A little bit more if you can. Yeah, I can read that.
No, hold on.
There you go. Today, a good many people would have you believe a punk band is the #1 threat to the world peace. Let me read that again. Today, a good many people would have you believe a punk band is the #1 threat to world peace. Last week, it was a Palestinian pressure group. The week before that, it was another band. We are not for the death of Jews, Arabs, or any other race or group of people. We are for the dismantling of a violent military machine, a machine whose own soldiers were told to use unnecessary lethal force against innocent civilians waiting for aid, a machine that has destroyed much of Gaza. We, like those in the spotlight before us, are not the story. We are a distraction from the story, and whatever sanctions we receive will be a distraction. The government doesn't want us to ask why they remain silent in the face of this atrocity, to ask why they aren't doing more to stop the killing, to feed the starving. The more time they talk about Bob Vylan, the less time they spend answering for their own criminal inaction. We are being targeted for speaking up. We are not the first. We will not be the last. And if you care for the sanctity of human life and freedom of speech, we urge you to speak up too. Free Palestine. So, and I'll just end this here. I happened to tweet this, I believe, on Monday. I basically said, people love the police state in the US. I mean, I was going to play this, but I can't play the clip. NWA famously said F the police.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they got some heat over that back in the 90s, but people here say
2 Live Crew.
People all the time say ACAB.
Yeah.
So hating the IOF, which is a branch of the police state, is no different. So, so it's just kind of interesting that, again, I think these guys were targeted given their skin color, in part.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because I didn't see anyone else getting the kind of backlash that they got, and they were saying exactly the same thing. And according to them, there were other bands that were promoting Palestine too. But again, it was what the phrase that they said that was the focus, and not the longer clip that I played. I, again, did not see that on mainstream media at all. So, so it kind of goes to show you, like, that you're using them as an example and using that phrase to instigate further, I guess, in the Zionist lobby's mind's power, when I think actually it's working against them, because people are seeing through the bullshit and people are actually willing to make a stand. And like I said, if you happen to go to any concerts in Europe where they're playing and they happen to be canceled, I argue you don't go. And to all the bands that are playing alongside them, I hope you stand in solidarity with them and don't play either. Like, let them lose their money. Because if they're willing to do that over a phrase, and you can make the argument of what you want, like they need to be, more civil with it, but they were. We just played a 2-minute clip of them that gave a longer stance of what they believe and essentially what their assignment was, as a punk rock band, So the idea that y'all didn't see that, but you clutched your pearls over a few words, and again, which is true, and well, in terms of the IOF is initiating a lot of these war crimes in Gaza, then I don't know what to say to y'all. So again, shout out to Bob Vylan. More interested in them now. Maybe I'll try and see if there's any more information I get over to the UK. But yeah, I just feel like what they're going through is, I mean, expected, but I think highly unwarranted given there were other bands that said the same thing, and Americans said the same thing, and nothing has happened to them. So, any last thoughts before
No.
we're done with this segment?
No, I think that's it. I think you got it.
But stories like these are why we're demonetized. So if you want to support us on the show financially, you can scan the QR code that you see on your screen, or type in the Ko-fi link that you see at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're in the YouTube chat, you can type in !donate, all one word, and the Ko-fi link will pop up, and you can donate as little as $1 there if you so desire. You can also donate on Substack, PayPal, and CashApp if you prefer, to help us pay for the bills that we need in order to keep the show and keep the network going. Obviously, we know that a lot of you are kind of tight financially, so the other way, best way, and the free way to support us is don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you leave a comment, whether in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this as a clip. Let us know what you think about this issue regarding this ban. Do you think what they're going through is justified? Are you more interested in knowing more about them now, given what happened to them? And do you think it could be what they're going through could be a little more racist in nature, as I was kind of saying in the segment, versus just making them an example for them saying allegedly naughty words regarding the IDF? But let us know what you think, and help us get to 3K so we're able to grow and more people can watch our content. And thanks for watching.
Nope. Let's check in with the chat briefly.
So Nally said, what's the Cash App link? That's in the description.
Yeah.
So if you go there.
Money sign Indie News Network on Cash App. Cord Lord got it for you. But Indy asking if there are any lizard people on Substack and Rumble, and also said free Palestine. Agreed. What do you got?
So Nally said, God save the Queen. It's a fascist regime. Well, I guess Queen regime, but no longer Queen.
May she rest in pieces.
Queen dead.
Oh, you get to go back to you get to go look at Charles's sausage fingers while you're there. Yay!
Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah. So, do you do Branston pickle on your plowman? Are you one of those?
I don't.
Like, no.
Well, look, I'm of Caribbean descent. I wasn't raised on
British food.
A lot of the British food that a lot of people, in a lot of ways, I wasn't allowed to eat a lot of that stuff anyway. So,
pork pie ain't kosher. You're saying?
I mean, some of it I will eat, especially when I'm there, but I mean, they're not necessarily the best things for you to eat.
Yeah.
But two, a lot of it is hot, and it's going to be hot over there. So I probably won't enjoy it that much anyway. But
Miss Natalie gave us $50 on the Cash App. Appreciate you.
Oh wow, thank you, Natalie. Appreciate you.
Yeah. So Kieran Pine, Kieran is in Keir Starmer. England racist, God forbid. Yep. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? Oh, so all right. On to our next one. So I brought this from the Electronic Intifada. This is from Yusuf Al-Nono, who writes how a new vocabulary is emerging in the genocide, right? Right on the 1st of July. They write, I turned yellow last year in May. My whole body dripped with sweat, and I was more exhausted than I had ever been with any prior illness. I couldn't move my body while in bed, much less get out of bed. I thought it was the flu and that it would pass. I was confined to our house in Al Nasra neighborhood in western Gaza City. At the time, we had been among the first to return to the neighborhood, and the streets were empty. My phone was often dead due to lack of charge. Recharging a phone is an errand that requires leaving the house and going to a charging station, and even if I had enough battery, the internet was frequently cut. I was bored and escaped into various fantasies of the war ending and what college graduation would look like. Then, my condition worsened. My skin turned a more intense yellow. Even my eyeballs cast a bright yellow glow. This transformation felt surreal, and I couldn't accept that this was me. The doctor at Al Ahali Arab Hospital told me that I had jaundice, and the cure was to eat better foods, especially sweets. What a useless prescription in a famine when we can barely find food. When a bit of energy eventually returned to my body, I was able to get out of bed. I went outside for a walk on Al Nasir Street and was surprised by how much movement there was, with stalls selling different goods spread everywhere. How long had I been out of it? It seemed that many people had returned to the neighborhood. Yet all eyes were seemingly on me, gawking at my sickly condition. I was surprised that my appearance was attracting so many looks. Was it really that bad? I heard a voice calling at me, Mr. Lamona, you look Regan. I turned to him, laughed, and said, yes, that's me. I hadn't heard the word Regan before the start of this genocide, but it means something like jaundice in English. It is just one of many new words that are making their way into our vocabularies. Words that we must now use to match the many unbelievable situations we find ourselves in. We are living in a surreal reality with new Gazawi vocabulary to match. Who would have imagined that we would hear or even use such words every day? So I felt it was also timely when talking about, malnourishment diseases. That Sam Husseini brings up the 35 days of fasting that UN Secretary General won't meet with Gaza's hunger strikers. So did you know that this was happening outside the UN? That there are hunger strikers that are protesting?
No.
So while he was in New York City recently, I repeatedly questioned the UN Secretary General's spokesperson about Gaza and if he would meet with veterans and allies who were on a 35 of a 40-day fast in front of the UN. It ends Monday, as well as other issues. So here's Sam Husseini doing the damn thing. I'll let him speak on this, and I think the silence on the other side is pretty fucking damn loud.
Thank you. As I hope you're aware, a group of Veterans for Peace and Allies are fasting. They're holding a daily vigil in front of the U.S. mission to the UN just across the street from this headquarters here. They're consuming only 250 calories a day, what people in Gaza on average are getting, and they're just halfway through their 40-day fast. They're sacrificing all they can to make people see what's happening. Will the Secretary General meet with them?
The Secretary
General, as you know, has been traveling. We'll have to see what his schedule is like when he's here, but I will also have some further announcements of travel to make from him in the coming days. But he's traveling this evening. We do expect him to be back in town tomorrow.
Thank you. I mean, people have criticized the Secretary General's office for not doing enough regarding Gaza. In the course of this news conference, I don't believe you said the word condemn, even as you're talking about Gaza, when another reporter asked, put a threshold, and you said, we will not starve people. We will not hinder aid, even if it's a very limited amount. But of course, it's Israel that's starving people. But you're not condemning them.
We have made clear Israel's responsibilities, and we made clear that it is because of Israel's blocking of aid that we have not been able to feed people. Regarding the killings of civilians, we've repeatedly condemned this. If you see our briefings overall, I use the word condemn often enough that I worry that, in fact, it's probably being overused rather than underused. But the fact is, we do condemn all killings of civilians, and we, again, are critical of all measures that are placing people at risk, either of having to face tremendous risk to their lives to get aid, or to do without and risk starving.
There's a systematic pattern with regards to what Israel is doing. It is moving people to the south, offering them aid there, shooting them, with an eye towards apparently expulsion. You say, what are the alternatives to a two-state solution? The alternatives are obviously on the Israeli side, expulsion of Palestinians, or a democratic, a South Africa solution, where you just have one person, one vote, regardless of religion, and so on. So there are alternatives feasible, some horribly illegal and some arguably utopian, but still there.
We've made clear our opposition to any forcible transfer of the population of Gaza, and we've also made clear our concerns about any system that would enshrine unequal or discriminatory practices. So there's no solution besides the two-state solution that would be able to guarantee the long-term rights of all the population. And that is the solution that we are pushing for, even at this difficult moment.
I don't believe the Secretary General has used the word genocide with respect to Israel. Is that accurate?
I think, again, for the people who are veterans here, we've taken this up many times, but the question of genocide is one to be determined by international courts. And so we will leave that determination to international judicial bodies to make. Rather than focusing on the words being used, what we're describing is what is happening. And what is happening is very clearly and unambiguously wrong. Denial of food to 2 million people is wrong.
Targeting those judicial bodies. Is the UN taking measures to, in practical, strong terms, protect them from malicious influence?
What I can tell you on that is that the Secretary General expresses serious concern about the designation of 4 judges of the International Criminal Court
to be sanctioned under
the executive order by the United States. While the United Nations and the International Criminal Court are separate institutions with separate and distinct mandates, the United Nations considers the ICC a key pillar of international criminal justice,
by now.
And the Secretary General respects its work. And the Secretary General also emphasizes the importance of the basic principle of judicial independence. All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Bye. I gotta
Any
go.
Update on the Secretary General meeting with the Veterans for Peace and their and other fasters outside the U.S. mission. One of them was just in the emergency room.
I don't have any update.
So did you hear that? The next day, he said one of those veterans. So he comes back the next day, right? Remember, dude told him that homeboy would be back, right? So he's now saying that one of those fasters is in the hospital, right? We just covered a Palestinian woman getting jaundice from lack of calories, right? Among many, right? They've talked about sugar hallucinations and, the food is being drugged. We just covered how they're using that same aid distribution network to murder civilians. So
he just got back into town yesterday. I do believe that in the next couple of days we'll also announce some further travels. But while he's here, we'll see what can be done. But certainly, you're well aware of his own concerns about the situation in Gaza.
As you may be aware, I've raised this with Huck, that there are fasters across the
The
street.
next day-
One of them is still in the hospital, 74-year-old former U.S. Navy corpsman from Toledo.
74-year-old Navy corpsman from Toledo, Mike Ferner.
Mike Ferner remains hospitalized. He had a potassium crash. The rest of the fasters issued a statement. Hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza vainly try to survive on the same starvation diet, or even less than we are on, 250 calories per day. But they know that those people in Gaza, those Palestinians, have no choice. Quote, they can't recover in a modern hospital with teams of health professionals. Will the Secretary General meet with these people who are across the street in front of the U.S. mission?
The Secretary General's position on what is going on in Gaza right now has been very clear. I don't have an update to what Farhan told you yesterday in answer to that same question.
So, thoughts, Care Bear?
I mean, just the weaseling out of trying to justify their crimes and against people who actually try. And that will kind of lead into what we're going to share in our last segment regarding G.J. Joe Nice. But
Yeah.
I think people are at a loss of what to do because obviously our government is not doing anything. So how else? I think now it's more or less taking things personally. And that's where we've come to. Of how to acknowledge what's happening. And we saw that in the last segment with Bob Vylan. You know, obviously they had a platform, you know, right there giving positions, but they essentially did that alone at the cost, you know, of their money and their money and possibly their career. Although I feel like right now they'll be. But I think that's kind of, it's not sad, but it kind of shows the lack of concern that the West has had in Gaza has forced people to kind of think like, you know, what else can I do? Like, I don't want to forget, but at a loss of whatever. And we talked about that. I think you did a segment on this, I think maybe a week or two ago. You know, asking or people asking Palestinians, what do you need? And it's valid because, you know, like, you know, you give them money, where are they going to get food? You know, you try and get them supplies, it may not get there.
Right.
You know, so it's like, what else can happen aside from our government stepping in to ensure that this assault stops, and that's not happening. So, yeah, I get it. We're kind of at that place right now of kind of doing this. I don't want to say in isolation, but at the same time, it's like kind of reflecting on the idea of like, I don't want to forget this, but also kind of as a reminder of, you know, what Palestinians are going through right now in terms of not having enough food to eat when they're supposed to, or the fact that they can only, that they were given, or probably still are given, like a 200-calorie allowance. That's like a couple of pieces of bread, folks. That's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so like, sharing in that despair with them, I think that's what people are coming to right now. So,
yeah.
And I think that even with the UN, that they're almost kind of dismissive,
right,
of it. It's sad, and not the job that you're supposed to do. Like, it shouldn't have to come to people saying, "We're fasting now," like, because you haven't done shit to, or at least we haven't necessarily reported on the UN at all, but what have they done?
Right. So here you go. Guess what that you want to see what that 74-year-old does when he gets out of the hospital?
Sure.
Here, United States, have some blood. You like shedding it all over the world so much? Here you go. How about some blood? A small amount of the blood money that corporations make taking us to war all the time. No more killing. Please, stop it.
So, 74-year-old.
Yeah. He understood the assignment.
Sam Husseini, Mike Ferner of Veterans for Peace threw blood at the U.S. mission to the UN. Today, here, United States, have some blood. He and 28 others were reportedly arrested today. He had been participated in hashtag Fast for Gaza. Most arrests took place at the Israeli mission to the UN, where a mass action was Joe Metzler, co-founder of Service Members for Ceasefire, was among those arrested there. She has been doing Fast for Gaza outside the U.S. mission to the UN for the last 40 days. They limited themselves to 250 calories per day, considered medically to be a starvation diet, and the amount reported early this year as the average available to Palestinians in Gaza. Joy left the Air Force and became a conscientious objector, citing U.S. aggression in the Middle East and the continued ethnic cleansing in all of Palestine and the ongoing mass massacre of Palestinians in Gaza. So here is those people, right? These are the ones that have been arrested right there at Diplomat Chemists. So Sam Husseini said there was a die-in today at the Israeli mission to the UN. 28 people were arrested. So, you know, at Alexa B. Wilkinson for the photos. One of the last times Husseini saw Mike, he was railing about fuckers killing fucking babies. Good on you, Mike. We're with you. Mike is a former Navy corpsman and an author of Inside the Red Zone, a veteran for peace reports from Iraq. Mike participated in the 40-day fast for Gaza until he had to be taken to the ER a few weeks ago. I reportedly asked the UN about the fasters and if UNSG Antonio Gutierrez would meet with him, but he never did. So, yeah. So Shilling and Farthing says 40-day long protest, and this is the first I'm hearing of it, but then why should I expect the complicit media to report it? Sam Husseini says subscribe to my writing to get that reporting. So, back to this EI article about new words in Gaza. I felt it fit really well. But the journalist writes, Gaza was not a quiet place before the war, but people got used to the annoying sounds of al-Zanana, or drones. But I don't think we'll get used to the sky-splitting roar and high-pitched screeches of the fighter planes that fly overhead. In December 2024, my friend Mahmoud and I were chopping wood for a fire. I had not known Mahmoud for a long time. He was displaced from a nearby Al-Karama area. He was forced to stay at my aunt's house in our neighborhood because his house had been destroyed by an Israeli attack. After a short time, I got to know him a little better, and we became friends. Nearby, a group of children were playing as we chopped wood, and then we heard the abrupt and terrifying shrieking sound of the jet. We covered our heads and got low to the ground, anticipating a missile strike. The children were terrified and their bodies shook with fear. They also thought it was a missile coming for us and started screaming. I tried to calm the kids down. I told them it was not a missile, that it was an F-16 that had come very close to the ground in order to confuse people and spread fear. Mahmoud said to the children, "Don't be afraid, the plane shahatat." Before that day, I had only heard the word shahat in the context of a car screeching to a halt, like when a car travels at a high speed and suddenly slows down. The loud noise that follows, that is from shahat. Now I understand the word in a different way. Every time I hear the sound of a plane ripping across the sky, I say shahatit to calm myself. I will never forget the day, the 8th of March, that would be on my birthday of 2024, that I miraculously escaped death. This was a very hard time for us in Gaza. Famine was spreading and airdrops of aid were just beginning. I decided without my mother knowing to take a risk and go to the drop site. The drop location was near Al Makusi Towers in Gaza City. It took me a half hour to reach the site, but for others, it likely took hours. I saw people gathering and joined them to wait for the drop. It was only a few minutes until we heard the loud roar of an approaching plane. It looked like a large passenger plane, and it was flying low. The scene was incredible. It was surreal to see this large plane flying so low. People started waving their hands so the pilot could see them and drop aid to us. I didn't realize what was happening as my eyes were on the plane, and I heard someone yell, "Janahat, Janahat." The word we use the verb jana to mean to lean, as in the Quranic surah, and if they incline, janahu, to peace, incline you as well to it, and trust in Allah. Surely he is all-hearing and all-knowing. The noun jana can also simply mean a wing, and the verb form can also mean to give wings to something. But at that moment, the verb did not mean an inclination towards peace. Jannah was referring to the plane's tilting in the sky when it released the packages of aid. The plane rose at high speed and then dropped the packages with parachutes attached. But there was something wrong. Why was the aid package spinning at such a high speed? I saw that it did not have a parachute, or that the parachute had not opened, and then it would fall to the ground. I looked around and was shocked. Everyone had fled and was hiding to protect themselves. I didn't know where to go, and suddenly the first one fell with a huge crash that spread dust everywhere. While I was trying to avoid that package, the second one fell on a donkey, killing it. Its owner had been forced to leave it while he ran for his life. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. I was shocked by the sight of blood everywhere. I stepped forward to where the first box had dropped and pulled a box of dates from it. Then people started running towards the box quickly, hoping to get something. I went home in shock. But the word stayed stuck in my head. Janahat, Janahat. If I hear that word again, I will start running without thinking. Closing thoughts, Care Bear? But shout out to those veterans for peace out there protesting. Appreciate them. Yeah. But yeah, it's why I like bringing these intifada stories from the pens of Palestinians. Is pretty strong stuff. So appreciate the EI as well. But talking about those stories is certainly why we're demonetized. You can scan that QR code on your screen or go to code-v.com/indienewsnetwork. Links to donate are in the description below. And if you can't do that because you're one of the poors like ourselves, just like and subscribe, hit the share button, leave a comment, let us know how despicable you find this. But otherwise, thanks for watching. All right. Should we check in with the chat before we get to our last one? You there? You got it? Hello? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. How's chat holding up? Hello?
Yep.
Okay, you're looking. There we go. People I definitely saw saying this is fucked up. What do we got? Sean says this is the same discussion around Nazism that happened, and the same will happen again. You remember the U.S. sponsored the rise of the Nazi Party, he also adds. But anyway, Natalie Williams, Semitic, related to or denoting a family of languages that includes Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic, and certainly ancient languages such as Phoenician and Akkadian, constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family relating to the people who speak Semitic languages, especially Hebrew and Arabic. That was from our last story, though, wasn't it? So Max asked, where in the Caribbean are you from? If you were
me,
yeah.
Dad's from Barbados, mom's from Trinidad.
Nice. Kieran said pork pie in Branston. We're talking. See, I know things. I know what y'all be out there doing with your fucking plowman's lunch and whatnot. You know, Tesco meal deal. You know what I mean? We know what's up. Anything else, or should we get to our last one?
I think that's it. Yeah, let's get to the last one. So, which kind of relates to this, your last story. So those of you who are new may not know this guy, DJ Joe Nice, very close friend to the show. The music that you hear every week, he produced that. So he hasn't been on the show in a minute, but we hope to have him on soon. He's a great guest, very knowledgeable, a lot of stuff, especially in geopolitics, world traveler, international DJ superstar, and all the things. So I follow him on Instagram, so that if you don't, you should, at Joe Nice DJ on Instagram. He does like short stories almost every day. And he did this today's the third now. So a couple of days ago, he did this Instagram stream in relation to the 4th, which I thought was good, especially given what we were talking about tonight, but I think just in general, given that, tomorrow, at the time of us recording it, tomorrow will be the 4th. And people are going to have the barbecues, and people are going to be celebrating, going to be fireworks, and I'm probably going to stay in the house. Because,
you got it? Your internet might be doing things and stuff. You're still here for us, though, I think.
Oh, there we go.
You back? You made it?
Think so.
Okay.
Think so.
You were here the whole time for us, if you were worried.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's
finish this quickly. My internet is kind of being spotty for some reason. But he, so he did this Instagram stream a couple days ago related to the July 4th. I thought it was good, so I asked permission if we can play on the show. He said, of course. So why not just get into it and we'll react to it. So here we go.
This Friday will be the 249th anniversary, or 249th celebration of the United States of America, the institution of the United States of America. 13 colonies, 13 former British colonies became 13 states that eventually morphed into 50 states, 48 contiguous, then Alaska and Hawaii. Thus 50 states. It's okay. Thus 50 states. I know many people will be going to cookouts, barbecues, watching fireworks displays, going to your local town centers or your city halls to celebrate the 249th anniversary of the United States of America. I will be doing no such thing. I cannot with a good conscience celebrate this country. I cannot with a good conscience celebrate a country that is funding an active genocide in the Middle East. I cannot with a good conscience celebrate a country that is funding a war between Russia and Ukraine. I cannot celebrate a country that has not paid reparations to American descendants of enslaved Africans. I refuse to celebrate a country that is not doing right by indigenous North Americans. I refuse to celebrate a country that is actively looking to pass a bill that will remove health care from millions of Americans and put thousands more Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents along the borders of this country. I cannot celebrate a country that is looking to pass a bill that it will be a massive tax giveaway to the rich and the oligarchy and the billionaire class of this country, while further decimating what is remaining of the middle class of this working America. I refuse to celebrate this. I will not celebrate on July 4th. And I've talked about this, not necessarily publicly, but privately with many of you, about Thanksgiving, and how I am not going to be participating in the overindulgence, the gluttony, and the excess that is Thanksgiving. And I feel the exact same way about July 4th, this coming Friday, the 249th celebration of the United States of America. So as a result, in my own way of protesting everything that everybody else is going to be doing on Friday, I will be going a 24-hour fast. I will not be participating. I will not be going to barbecues or cookouts. No fireworks shows. None of that. 24-hour fast in protest of everything this country is doing right now to American citizens and other individuals around the United States and around the world. If you want to go ahead and participate in the 24-hour fasting protocol, a 24-hour protest, no food, no nothing, by all means, go ahead and join me. I will be doing it. I'm not dealing with this. As I said before, I cannot willingly participate. I cannot willingly participate in a celebration of a country that doesn't honor, respect, and celebrate its people. I refuse to do it. And I'll be doing one of these fasts on Thanksgiving also. No food, no solid food. Water's fine, juices are fine. But you're not going to see me with vanilla ice cream and apple pie celebrating. You will not see me wearing red, white, and blue. You will not hear me singing America the Beautiful. Because there is nothing beautiful about the way this country is treating its people right now. Absolutely nothing. Chamba, what's going on? I'm saying can't agree more with all of this, but the fireworks are also horrible for dogs. Yes, absolutely. You know who else fireworks are also horrible for? Refugees. And you're probably like, Joe, why are fireworks horrible for refugees? The reason why is because of post-traumatic stress disorder. Most refugees don't like being around fireworks because it reminds them of explosives. Same for veterans of foreign war. Absolutely, pineapple on mazza. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. Fireworks are terrible. They're a terrible reminder of, as in the America the Beautiful, the bombs bursting in air. Nobody needs to fucking celebrate bombs bursting in air. Why? Because bombs are being dropped on Palestinians right now. No one needs to celebrate that. So again, on Friday, 4th of July, 24-hour fast. No food, no chips and dips, no chips and guacamole. None of it. None of it. I have a fasting app on my phone. I will start it at 12 o'clock on July 4th, and I will go minimum until 12 o'clock on July 5. And depending on how I feel, maybe even a little bit longer. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. And everybody else should be pissed off too. By the way, this country is fucking over people.
Well, can't blame them.
No, and I thought about this because I saw this a couple of days ago, and for the first time, and
I'm not gonna take this anymore.
it's going to be very weird to see the cognitive dissonance that people are going to have, because just yesterday, now, at the time of this recording, there are people who are screaming at Trump and the GOP regarding the big, beautiful bill that got passed in the Senate. And people are going to be like, oh my God, what's going on? This country's in shambles and all that kind of stuff. But then Friday, everybody is going to be celebrating. And then probably for the weekend, and then Monday come back to it. So I get it, like, but at the same time, as Joe said, there's a lot shit going on in the world right now that doesn't deserve taking a time away from world events to party. Especially, and Gaza, like what's happening in the world aside, there are people who are struggling here.
Yeah.
Who will not be able to celebrate in the way that it's stereotypically done on the 4th. You know, we have people who are not able to buy groceries. You know, he mentioned dogs being scared. I'm fucking scared of I remember last year I was just walking. I think I told you this. Like I was walking like a few blocks down the street. I forgot where I was going. Like people were just releasing fireworks just any old way, and like to the point where like window shutters at stores were like blown out because people were just shooting fireworks at whatever. No one gave a fuck about where they were letting them off. And like it was just so loud it blew out my ears. You know? This was just on the street. Like just randomly going somewhere last year. You know, but yeah, he's right. Like, you know, for refugees who are coming here for war and having to hear all of that and how nonsensical like people would let off fireworks even now do things, it's gonna hit different for them to hear that. And so yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Like to me, it's just a day. In the same way Thanksgiving is just a day. Like, look, I'm thankful for the day off. I will eat, but I'm not gonna go full in and just be like, yay, America. No. Like, and especially given what's happening in the world, I can't. You know?
Agreed.
You know, it was Frederick Douglass who wrote, "What's the fourth to a slave?" You know, I can argue what's the fourth to the person who's about to get kicked off Medicaid? What's the fourth to an immigrant who had to come here from war, having to hear all the fireworks again? That remind them of the bombs that were going off in their ravaged countries that are probably caused by us. What's to the fourth to a person who has to work, even though they might get time and a half or a double pay? You know, these are the things that we don't necessarily think about, and we should, because there's going to be a lot of people hurting, but yet the people who are making the most noise, especially on social media, are the ones who are going to be showing off on their social media, like all the food and like the parties and the pools and like all the stuff, you know, to forget temporarily at least what's happening in the world or what we've been going through all of now. So if anything, people should be protesting, but no one's going to. So
I think there's supposed to be a No More Kings, but that's going to be a performative thing, you know?
Right.
So
I get why people and like Joe are fasting because
well, like hunger strikes were capable of actually getting things done. If you go look over at the Irish ones, you know, so like if all the Muslim brothers in the prisons decide to go on hunger strike, that actually affects the cogs of the machine, unfortunately, so. But anyway, talking about that is most likely why we're demonetized, for sure. YouTube doesn't want us to tell people about what they can do to stop things, but you can go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork or scan that QR code on your screen if you want to support us anyway. But, otherwise, like and subscribe. Like, money's tight for people. Sharing the video would help more than that. Otherwise, leave a comment, let us know what you think. How are you not going to be not celebrating the Independence Day, if that is your real name. But anyway, thanks for watching. So, where's the, I'm pretty sure I put it in. I have to go get it now. Hold on. I find it. Talk with the chat, Care Bear, while I find the special treat.
So let's see. Okay, your Ecuador said, yeah, same here, Colin. Also said, I have family and friends coming over planned already, barbecue, etc. But I'll stand in solidarity. Yeah, I mean, no one's saying you shouldn't, especially if you have family, but I think at the same time, just kind of reflect on, and it's funny, that everyone is like, oh, well, like Israel, especially with violence, the glorifying violence.
Have you
last
looked
I
at
checked,
America?
this country was birthed out of violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, as is Israel. So, violence begets violence. So, shut the fuck up with that, or you've forgotten your history.
Yep.
The reason why you're independent was due to bloodshed. So, shut up. Anyway.
Yeah. Shut your face.
So Nilio Nostrum, there's nothing left. There's nothing to celebrate. Why? This is hard to see. Because I think people want a distraction.
Yeah.
People want to feel good about something. And given that it is the 4th weekend, it's an excuse to escape, even for a little bit, which on one hand I understand. But on the other hand, for a lot of people, the 4th, they're still struggling. Like, having a holiday doesn't make their situation any better. And certainly if it's like, if you're talking about geopolitics, what we're doing to Palestine, it's not as if like it's going to stop because we're celebrating our independence for a few days.
Mac9135 says, what else is left to say? We've expressed all the outrage we can express. I feel you, dog. I struggle sometimes to find new words. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool. Well, I guess we give the people their special treat who stuck around. So you're not going to be here 2-3 weeks, right? So,
right. So we're going on a, at least, I gave Reef options. So whether he
I might do some
live
stuff
with other people or not is up to him. But as I have said in the stream, I am going to London next week. In the middle of the week, I'm going to visit my family there. And I'm going to be there for 2 weeks. And then I'll be back on the 24th. So we will stream either on the 30th or whatever that first week in August is on that Wednesday. But I guess more than likely, unless something pops off at the end of the month. So
yeah.
So Reef might choose to go live or do some rewinds or a mix of the two over the next 3 weeks. That will be up to him.
Yeah.
But I leave that in his way more capable hands. So if we're able to get an interview in before I leave, play that at some point during our, at least my hiatus, at least.
Right.
But yeah, so we won't be back together until at least the end of the month, just to let you guys know. But yeah.
So,
but as we said, when we come back, we got some things that we've been cooking. Thank you, Vicky, for a safe travel message. Thank you. So we got a lot of stuff cooking that we've been working on that we want to premiere when I get back. But Reef was chomping at the bit to show something last week. But I'm like, let's
teaser
give
trailers.
the kitties, let's give the kitties a treat. Don't give away the full goods yet. So so Reef worked on this last night.
Yeah.
So
just play it.
I'll
roll the bean footage.
Yeah, just play it.
So
yeah.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? Have peace and be enslaved. Yes. So peace isn't the answer. No. Liberation is the answer.
Yeah,
that's all you get for now.
Yeah,
Gonna have
so
a
we got
whole
some
new look.
changes.
We're gonna get out the cobwebs of this wood furniture. We're gonna get out of the wood furniture. It's gonna be nice. You know. So
yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of new stuff when we come back. When I come back, so looking forward to it. Looking for you guys to see it. We've worked more so. Reef has worked really hard on this stuff. So this has been stuff. Really, we talked about this for well over a year, but it's only been in the last few months we've been able to get some stuff together. And given that I've been going away, will be going away, this seemed to be the best time to actually get a lot of this stuff done. So yeah. So yeah, I love you guys. Thank you so much. I'll miss you all, and I'll be back soon. Hopefully, maybe I can report on some British related, and I might even go to Denmark for a couple of days. So might try and get some across the pond stories if I see any that I might report on when I get back. We'll see. But yeah.
So all right, fam.
It's up to you.
I'll hold down the fort. No worries. All right, fam. Subscribe, hit the bell. You know how to get notifications for things. Follow us on Twitter at Get Any News. Follow the Substack, indienewsnetwork.com. You know, get updates for all the things all the time so that you know what's happening. Otherwise, remember, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, and I'll see you when I get back.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
you.